The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawokov?
I can't say it very well. You know, Jeshi Lokop.
And everyone knows. Okay.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Wednesday morning heralds the middle of the week, and let's see what we have in store today. It looks like Mombasa Road is already going to be quite busy this morning, and we have some inbound traffic into the city already. Southern Bypass looking pretty good. Jogo Road, as usual, has already started clogging up, and there was something on the finger of Uhuru, or rather Haile Selassie Avenue from the beginning of this week, because we see that still continuing this morning, and it's already quite tight coming off of Landis, then towards Kamkunji roundabout and out towards Haile Selassie, in and outbound. Quite some traffic there spilling over into the CBD this morning. Thika Superhighway looks pretty good, not an issue there. Juja Road, however, inching along very slowly, traffic building up in several areas. Coming off of Waiaki Way, then into the city centre as well, we see some traffic starting. All right, let's take a look at what it looks like in a short while. But for now, it looks like folks are waking up. And if you haven't left yet, you might want to think about that, because it looks like today might be a busy traffic day. Talk to us on SpiceFMKE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Wednesday.
Broadcasting worldwide, Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
How are you doing?
The only
5th
way
day of January 2022. It's coming up to 10 minutes after 6. Welcome to Wednesday. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM. How are you doing, Ndu?
Fine, thank you. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Yangu is power.
Good morning, Yangu ni sawa.
Yes.
Okay. That is good.
Yeah. So City is still away. Still recharging the batteries. The reserve batteries.
The reserve ones.
The reserve ones. The others are fully charged. It's the reserve ones. It's prepared for the long haul. So he'll be joining us pretty soon. But welcome to the show, and thank you very much for tuning in today. Hey, so we'll talk about many things. Let me just sneeze.
Bless you.
That thing is at what degrees? Sheesh.
It's already doing things.
Yeah.
Wow.
You just can't enter a studio and just find a studio that's warm enough for you.
No, because it's not only you in here, my friend.
Aye. Sawa basi. Apart from a cold studio, I'm fine. Yes. So they're going back to Parliament today.
Yes, duke it out and just figure this thing out at least by midnight today.
So today, they have tomorrow, they have Friday. Can they just fight properly?
And leave us alone.
They go and fight properly. So they're going back there. Okay, we'll talk about it as we look at the newspaper headlines. Then we'll also be looking into the elections this year and the alternative voices that are coming out and the people who are coming and saying, you know what, yeah, I could be new to this, but I have a lot of wealth of ideas that I bring to the table. We'll speak to somebody who is a young person, who's a former student leader who says, I want to go to that National Assembly.
Mimi.
Yeah. Now, when you hear student leader and then you hear National Assembly, and you're hoping, please don't go and fight.
Please, I beg, because we've seen it.
Hey.
We've been in the audience.
And
We've
don't
seen
give him
it
a gun.
Please do not.
So he'll be joining us at 7 o'clock. What's his name?
His name is Kimoru Moracha.
Dr. Kimoru
Engineer.
Engineer
Yeah.
Moracha.
Yeah.
He'll be joining us, and he wants to be MB for this constituents called what again? Called Bomachoge Borabu constituency. Kimoru Moracha.
Yes.
And then at 8 o'clock, let's talk about chips.
We might as well.
So are we eating local chips or are we eating imported chips?
Should we be eating chips?
Should we be eating chips at all? What do we do? How else can we eat our potatoes?
Waru.
Yes. Okay. So that whole debate that was there sparked in social media by an announcement by KFC that they've run out of chips because people have really eaten their chips over the holidays. And now brought in the whole issue of, so what do you mean you run out of chips? Have you gone to Kinangop?
Have you seen?
Have you seen the chips, the potatoes that they have?
As people were driving from Nairobi into Western Kenya over this holiday season, and people were laying them on the side of the road with sacks and sacks of potatoes. Where are you people?
Do you mean you run out of? So everybody else was saying, yeah, we have chips, we don't have chips. Let's talk about the supply chain because it's a big issue here.
It is.
The supply chain, not just of potatoes, but of everything else. Of potatoes, of fresh vegetables, of meat, of milk, of eggs, all right? So do we have quality, adequate and consistent supply of quality products in these areas that then go into our supermarkets and our food chain? We'll be joined by the chairman of the Retail Traders Association of Kenya, Leonard Mudachi. He is a restaurateur par excellence. He's been in the industry for a while. So come and join us at 8. We'll talk about that quickly. COVID.
Okay, let's
look the
latest. Let's look at the latest for Kenya. Quite high numbers now. It seems like a very normal thing that we will see these high numbers now. 2402. 2,402 new cases in the country from a sample size of 10,000 coming off the weekend, now much higher. Gives a positivity rate of 22.6%. Now we're looking at a total of 302,134 confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country. Let's look worldwide. 295,558,676. 5 million cases in the last 2 days, and those numbers are ranking up. What are we looking at? Lockdown in Italy, lockdown in Austria, lockdown in Switzerland, lockdown in France for 2 weeks, an increase in terms of time of the lockdown that is happening in many, many countries across Europe and in some parts of the United States. That's what folks are looking like. We're seeing stories. US reports 1 million COVID cases with a peak to come. And we're looking at the US having recorded more than 1 million cases over the last couple of days. President Joe Biden is facing criticism over his response as he called for schools to stay open despite the surge. And folks are saying, close it down. This is not a time. Death rates and hospital admissions in the US have been far lower in recent weeks than in previous infection spikes. The number of hospital admissions, however, has been steadily rising. The country is now facing almost a vertical increase in cases. According to the top US pandemic advisor, Anthony Fauci, he said the peak may be weeks away, and it looks like it could get worse. Biden says, we know kids can be safe while they're in school. That's why I believe schools should remain open. But the cases of COVID being realized in the country are telling a different story. So it doesn't really look pretty here. And we're looking at high cases of infections. I mean, I'll just give you one example of what is happening in the UK. Just give you the cases that they were able to find, or rather that they reported over the last 24 hours. 218,724 cases one day in the UK. Remember when they were at 56,000 cases, 76,000 cases? They said, we need to shut this down. Now we're looking at triple those numbers, and folks are quite worried.
Okay. There's one side of a narrative that always keeps pushing, the numbers of new positive cases that have been reported versus whatever sample size and the positivity rate rising. But also, let's look at what's the other side of the story that is not being told as loudly, which is the severity of the cases.
Well, this isn't
because previously we were talking about severe cases. We were talking about the healthcare system being overwhelmed. We are not talking the same.
No. Although
that should receive the same kind of, you should say, yes, we are seeing the cases rising. The cases keep rising and dropping. But are we managing? Are the people who need critical care accessing the care?
They are.
Are the people who need to go to hospital accessing hospital? Is a majority of the people who are testing positive symptomatic, asymptomatic, needing care, needing just to treat at home? Because if we don't have that narrative, if we just keep saying, numbers, the new numbers are now 100,000 tested today. Okay, yeah, it's going to be a long time before we stop saying we have new numbers tested today.
That's the thing. When you look at the number of cases vis-a-vis those who are being admitted in hospital, it's not comparable as to when you had previous infections, when you now started to see even now the wealthier nations and their solid healthcare systems taking a hit. You're not seeing that now. In as much as hospital cases will be on the rise, people are able to manage it with a little bit of medication here and then go back home, which is the truth.
Yeah.
That we're not seeing health systems overburdened. We're not seeing severity in terms of infection, and that people are able to be down for a couple of days and then come back
out.
Yes.
So there's no panic in the health system in terms of, initially, as long as you've tested positive, you needed to go into isolate or to go to a hospital.
Yes.
Now even the doctors can look at you and tell you it's okay, just go and
you'll be all right.
Yeah, deal with this from home. That needs to be amplified as well. It's 19 minutes after 6. Let's take a quick break. We live stream the show every morning on SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. If you're online, say hello. We'll be saying hello to you shortly.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani, Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's still a little bit dark out in Nairobi at a few minutes after 6:20. Mostly clear conditions at 17, highs of 26 and lows of 15. It's clear at 13 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 13, and we're looking at partly clear conditions in Nyeri at 11, highs of 25. It's clear at 14 in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 12. And we're looking at mostly clear conditions in this early morning in Mombasa at 26, highs of 33 today. Malindi is mostly clear at 27, highs of 31. And into Kisumu, it's clear at 18. It'll go to highs of 29 today. Kakamega will see highs of 29. It's clear at 17 and we'll see lows of 16. Looking at clear conditions out in Kampala at 19, highs of 28 and lows of 17. It's partly cloudy at 27 in Dar es Salaam with highs of 33. Johannesburg is clear at 16 with highs of 28. It'll come down to lows of 14. While in Lagos, it's clear at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 23. For now, we're looking at clear conditions at 23 in Kinshasa, and we'll go to highs of 31. Out in Beijing at -1, it's partly sunny. We'll see highs of just 3 and a bitingly low temperature of -1. 2 degrees and partly cloudy in Paris, highs of 7 and lows of flat on 0. 3 degrees and clear in London, highs of 7 and back down to lows of 3. Tuesday night is ringing at 2 degrees and clear in New York. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 2 and lows of 0.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
2 minutes after 6. This is the biggest conversation in the country. Are people online?
Yes. Edwin Washira has something very interesting to say this morning. First of all, he says, good morning, Happy New Year. So, Eric Latiff, are you vying in 2022? If you are, for whatever you're going to vie for, doesn't matter. Women rep, MCA, you have his vote.
This man does not even know his own constituency. I tell you, my constituency, you'll move your vote. IBC is about to roll out another rapid registration exercise. Thank you, Edwin.
So if you should,
I'm listening to the ground. You see the ground?
The ground is
the
saying,
ground has started talking.
If somebody else by the end of 10 o'clock,
the ground has started talking.
Another 3 people say that Eric should run for
office.
Can I be your campaign manager?
Totally.
Bas, it's
totally.
Over. It's finished. We are winning.
I'm listening to the ground.
We'll decide later the position, but for now, we are winning.
For now, we're winning.
We are winning.
Yes.
Daniel Kitiku. Good morning, friends. Tuning from Bere North, Embu, getting you loud and clear. Santisana. Kev Santana and Nanyuki is tuned in this morning. He says, keenly following on your discussion today about the global supply chain, God forbid it disintegrates. Well, all right. Alego Karapul, Siaya County, that's where Vic Mar Siaya is tuned in from. And James Kimanzi is tuned in from Mombasa. Good morning, Team TSR. Happy New Year, everyone. Juja Farm. Rain-fed farming is inadequate. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Harold Iota says the saga, why are we not making noise over Kenyan coffee and tea served in top restaurants in the West? Good morning. Mombasa is tuned in. Robert says. Philip Kiplimo is tuned in from Eldoret. And Nashon Musa says, good morning. Kayole is tuned in today. Good morning from Gatitu Kandara sub-county. Well represented. And that's Collins Okisai Wakamasai. Iyo.
Collins who?
Okisai Wakamasai.
Okay. Collins Okisai Wakamasai.
Karibuni sana.
Everybody welcome. So, today's Somali proverb. Do not set out on a journey using somebody else's donkey. Do not set out on a journey using somebody else's
donkey. Use your own.
Yes.
If you have one. Or wait till you get one.
And wait till you get one.
The
assumption here is that you're stealing somebody else's donkey, or you're taking somebody else's donkey without their knowledge. Yeah. You can borrow, you can hire, but don't just set off on a journey using somebody else's donkey. Use your own.
Yeah.
That's the day's Somali proverb. Let's look at the newspaper headlines. You know, go to your app store and download the Standard e-paper, and you'll be able to get access to the Standard newspaper on a daily basis. daily basis.
Yeah.
And also you can go to www.standardmedia.co.ke. So, in the headlines?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this story. Because I realize on a daily basis, it is important, even if things are going bad, in order to get something done about it, I think we need to continue to highlight. Father from Hell is this story that's on page 3 of the Standard. A man is missing after 2 daughters were slaughtered. When Muga Ndu Okoh and her younger sister, Maratina Maingi, spent Sunday afternoon playing at their Badeza village home in Kinango, they had no idea that would be their last moments, that those would be their last moments. They were dressed in matching African prints. The siblings, aged 7 and 5, had been to church earlier in the day and, like everyone else, had ushered in the new year in merriment and hope. But when darkness began to engulf their Taru home at 7 p.m., a person ambushed them with a knife, slit their throats open, and left them to bleed to death. One girl was found in a pool of blood in her bed, and another in a seat. Their father's sister, Esther Mweni, who is also a village elder, reported the killings to the police at about 10 p.m. She claimed her brother differed with his wife before the incident. The father has been missing. The children's mother, Bridget Ndunge, ran away for her safety after the heated argument with her husband. It is not immediately clear what the couple were quarreling over. Gruesome pictures taken by detectives at the crime scene show the girls suffered deep cuts in their necks. The Kamba male, aged 54, differed with his wife over domestic affairs, and he decided to kill his daughters in cold blood. This is now the assumption immediately of the police. This is according to a statement report filed at the McKinnon police station. On Tuesday, Kinango Sub-County Police Commander Frederick Ombaka said they had launched a manhunt for the suspect. A post-mortem is set to be conducted on the bodies before they are released to the family for burial. 2 girls, 5 and 7, slaughtered and left in their home.
So parents quarrel.
Mother runs away for her own safety.
Both parents are not in the house, and children are found dead.
Killed in a gruesome way.
I see. I'm sure the police then have a lot more information than what has been reported here. I'm just looking for the connection between. So how do we know it's a father?
This is why I said that they made the assumption really quickly that it's the father who has taken the lives of these girls, based on whatever information that they had received, that there was
by
an
the
argument
father's
between
sister
them.
reporting this to the police.
Yes.
And the man has gone missing.
There's a lot of, I'm sure that there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. However, it just looks like a jumped to conclusion really quickly that...
Do we know where the mother is?
No, she ran away for her safety apparently after
the quarrel.
This domestic spat, yes.
Hey. It is so sad.
And I mean, I keep saying...
We're talking about...
It doesn't matter the severity of your argument, whatever it is. The lives of these 2 girls, they're lost. And it doesn't matter whatever it is, how bad it was. These were unnecessary deaths. Not that any death is necessary. But look at this. 2 children playing away in their own little, world of fun. And they're gone. There's something going really wrong.
Yep. And we keep talking about it.
Really wrong.
The day before, what was it yesterday? We were talking about the woman who killed her children.
Well, yesterday.
Still, domestic quarrel. She accuses the husband of having another woman. And this has been going on for long. She goes back home. She torches the house, and they all die in the house. We have a case in court of a military officer who's accused of having done the same to his ex-wife and children. We have very many cases of people actually, by the time you get to killing your own.
Boss, and look at the manner in which we're talking about, because it's interesting, because I studied a little bit of this, and you'll find that the way in which the lives of people are taken, you can attribute that to what the perpetrator is feeling at that point. you're not going to slit somebody's throat for whom you didn't have anger issues over, or you're channeling through them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So by the time you do something like that, such a close method, then this is somebody who's, number one, suffering or seriously suffering, and then using this as a channel to show that. I mean, there's so many explanations behind this, but I'm coming down to the bottom line again, that there is something very wrong with very, very many people. And this is the coping, Eric.
Yep.
The coping is taking life now. Whether it's setting a house ablaze, slitting the throats of 2 young children.
Yeah, and we can't
burning
just
people.
address it by arresting people.
No. It's easy. Arresting people is easy.
Yeah. Arrest people, let the person be arrested by the mob and let the person be lynched by the mob. It's still not sorting out the issues. Sad note. It's 6:30. Let's take a quick break, see how the roads are looking like, and then we look at more headline newspapers. Peter Ongera says the ground at Lukenya railway station says there's a railway station in Lukenya.
Yes.
Where?
Okay, there's a substation. Get onto it.
It says Eric should run for life, according to Somali proverbs.
Eric should run for his life. Not for office.
My life is my office.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
ABSA was very responsive when COVID came about. And one of the things that we worked together on was for them to give us a facility to enable us buy materials in huger volumes than we were buying.
ABSA introduced a product to us known as the Trade Management Online. It's fast and it's safe. ABSA has helped us bring our possibilities to life, hence making us a home of quality.
What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more. Starting Thursday, 18th November on the Standard Digital YouTube and Facebook page. Hosted by Eric Latiff.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo
Outbound
soul,
on
and
Mombasa Road today. We're looking at that Maradima stretch where we have a little bit of action going on there. Southern bypass looking pretty good. Other bypasses, eastern then going out to the northern, not bad at all. North Airport Road might take a little bit of a hit for those who are turning around off Jogo Road and then trying to use that as a longer route to get into the city, because Jogo Road then going out towards Landys is packing up slowly, gently, but it will probably get much more full as the minutes tick by. Kamkunji still taking a hit from all sides. Coming off Ring Road, coming off Landys Road, Haile Selassie, that continues into the CBD. Ngong Road a little bit here and there at the roundabout then of the City Mortuary. Right, Odinga Way looks pretty good this morning, coming off Waiaki Ways where you still see that dot of traffic. Not to forget, if it gets too heavy, you can use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of that. We're seeing some traffic on the Thika Superhighway going then off towards Pangani and a little bit on Kiambu Road for the first time this week. Let's keep an eye on that specifically and see if it gets any worse. All right, talk to us, guys. Alternate routes that you might have just in case. Text on 40127. Tweet SpiceFM KE.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
25 minutes to
94.4 Spice FM.
On the front page of The Nation, there's a headline there, schools now set tough conditions for students. And then there's a photo of some boys sitting on the ground, and these are students of Miranda High School who are waiting to be readmitted to school on Monday. The students were required to show proof they have undertaken a drug test.
My God. That you don't have any drugs in your system as you're coming to school this morning. My good Lord.
Now, you know, we're talking about Miranda.
Mhm.
Okay, Miranda High School is a national school.
Mhm.
It's one of the top performers in national exams.
Yes.
But it was hit by this unrest.
Mhm.
They went home. The school administration does not want jokes. Can you come with proof that you have undertaken a drug test? And of course, the assumption here is that it shows you're negative.
Yes. A positive test will admit you again. No.
For readmission.
Because your behavior before you left was akin to people who are on
We have
drugs.
basically narrowed it down and said,
This is a drug problem.
Ini bangi.
Ini bangi. Imagine, that's what we've said. Ini bangi.
Ini bangi.
So drug test, that's how we're going to solve it. And then if you're on drugs, you will not come to school.
That is one.
Mm-hmm.
Various other schools that were hit by unrest are dealing with their students in different ways. So, for example, in Upper Hill, remember Upper Hill, what happened? Is there was this agitation, we want to go home. So they were all told, okay, guys, let's conduct a referendum. Those who want to go home, say aye. Those who want to remain, say nay. 380 students signed and said, I want to go home. 1,200 said, I want to stay.
I want to continue.
I want to stay. So those 380 have been told, as the rest come to school, you guys come back to school next week with your parents. Dear parent or guardian, you're required to accompany your son back to school on Wednesday, 12th of January at 9 a.m. He must be in full school uniform and school fees must be cleared in full. The principal spoke to the nation and said the school had to release the students to go home after pleading with them in vain to remain until the closing date. Yesterday, a parent of one of the affected learners said it would be wrong for the school to punish those who decided to go home before the closing date. I mean, it's not right to ask students to go home willingly, then start subjecting them to disciplinary action.
Oh, no.
You ask them if they want to go home. They said yes.
You
now
said
you're punishing them.
Then now we said you are going to come back. Now, in order for you to come back, there are conditions. What? So did you set them up? That's what you did. You set them up. You basically told them that they could go, knowing full well that now when schools opened, you were going to set some conditions for them.
Remember what the
and you must come with your parents.
Remember what the principal says. We had pleaded with them to remain calm. They said, no, attack one nyumbani. No, come on, boys. Just be easy. Attack one nyumbani. Okay, how many want to go home? Home. They're told, okay, go. Now they've been told, now, come with your parent. The parent is saying, but you're the one who asked them.
You're the one who told them to go home.
No. They
asked them if they want to go home.
They asked, they agitated, and they demanded to go home. And the principal looked and said,
This one can turn
not
crazy.
Everybody wants to go home. So let me just isolate those who want to go home, then go. So those are the ones that have gone. Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, Cooperative, is urging parents to stop siding with their children and instead give them the right counsel. When schools ask students who've been involved in indiscipline cases to report a week later with their parents, it's because the school wants to sit the students down and address their issues. And parents must support this. We cannot allow parents to encourage their children's indiscipline. Those who are complaining must take responsibility and instill good discipline in their children.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree with this 100%. But you've heard me say this, Eric. It's like an old record now. I agree with that. For whatever the reason may be, indiscipline must be stemmed. It must be dealt with. But there's still the other side. And no matter how thin you slice it, you always have two sides. The manner in which they carried out their agitation was wrong. I agree with that. Whether you burn a school, whether you knock down or whatever, you destroy anything, it was wrong. And I think that there would be genuine reasons for the agitation. There are some people who are just going to join the foray and just bring some nonsense reasons as to, we're making noise because A, B, C, D. But are there reasons as to why you see this uprising? How are we dealing with it? Because right now, look at what's happening. They're coming back to school, right? It would appear as though the season of uprising and discipline now has quelled.
Especially if you test negative for drugs.
Then everything is okay, right? But what have you done? You've just put a Band-Aid on the problem. You don't know what's simmering underneath. And then after some time, are we not going to have a resurgence of these issues? You've not dealt with whatever problem is. You've dealt with it on one side. There was indiscipline. There was destruction. Bring money. We build back the building. If you were sent away from school, we'll bring your parents and unless these consultations are going to be, tell us what the problem is. Then I'm okay. If the consultations between said student and parent will be, all right, let's have a chat about what could be the problem. And let's see how we can deal with those issues. Then all right. But it just seems as though you've dealt with one side of it and you've not dealt with the other side of it. And that is a recipe for reoccurrence of this same issue. For sure. You don't deal with it, it's going to rear its ugly head once again. Deal with the issue, whatever they may be, and be able to come down to start picking away at it.
Look at this issue, for example. In Othaya Boys High School, there are 21 learners whom the DCI is investigating. Investigations have established that students are allied to a gang called Gaza. This is Othaya Boys. Students are allied to a gang called Gaza that's based in Kayole and Mathare, Nairobi.
And they're in Othaya.
The local DCI boss, Florence Butura, said some members of this group are facing criminal charges while others will be prosecuted. We have their files and some of them are facing serious charges. Some of the students were suspected to be behind drug peddling in the school. So there's a business that was being run by a gang based in Kayole and Mathare, Nairobi. In Othaya Boys. And 21 students are under investigation. That is one case. In Busia, parents at Bujumba Secondary School are protesting against the decision by the Board of Management to turn away learners who had not paid a 5,600 shillings fine for rebuilding a dormitory that was burnt down. Only a handful of learners reported back, with the parents wondering why all the learners were penalized over the dormitory fire, whereas the ones suspected of starting the fire had been arrested and charged in court. You've already identified, so these are the ones, the perpetrators.
And you've started to deal with it,
Right? So if these are the perpetrators, why are you punishing everybody? And the parents are like, 5,600 extra for why? We're not paying. That's an issue there. Higher, let's go to another place in Nyeri still. Kangofiri High School in Nyeri. Learners will report in phases after they walked out of school last term. Form 4 learners reported yesterday, accompanied by their parents. Form 1s are going back today. Form 2s and 3s are reporting tomorrow and Friday. All the students are expected to be in school by 10, accompanied by their parents, and they're required to pay 2,622 shillings and 0 cents fine to cater for damages. 2,622, Bob. You can round it off and bring
2,650.
And 50.
Yes. Look, I understand, and I see both sides here. That something needs to be done to mitigate so that this doesn't happen again. But in addition to what is being done, what are the criminal elements must be dealt with how you would deal with any criminal element wherever. That needs to be dealt with. DCI doing their investigations, all of that needs to happen for sure. But are there latent issues with these kids? Because I think overall, let's be honest, overall, I think the kids who are in school are pretty good kids. You know, the indiscipline that we see coming out comes from a few. Look at the numbers in Upper Hill that you were talking about. 300 and something are the ones who wanted to go home. 1,200 wanted to stay in school and continue. Right? So, generally, you don't have a problem with indiscipline. But there are some that there's a problem with, and they're able to influence others. Are those issues serious enough for you to say, let's address them? Or are there some who are just joining the fire and saying, all right, here's an opportunity for us to rampage? But are there some issues that you should be able to deal with that will not then cause problems in the future?
Including taking parents for counseling.
Because sure, when a parent says, absolutely.
Well, you asked the students if they wanted to come home and they said they want to come home. What's the problem?
Taking them, yeah.
If a parent has no problem with the fact that their son decided, I want to go home, before the end of the school term,
of course, you must question. You must question. I mean, I've told you many times about my son and the way he would come home every day and say, look, do we have to go to school tomorrow?
Yeah.
But then you realize, okay, at some point now he's joking and he doesn't really have a problem with it. But if there's somebody who was throwing tantrums every day, crying, not wanting to get on the bus, then you say, hold on a minute.
There's an issue.
There's an issue here that we ought to deal with. But the kid gets on the bus at the end of the day, he's learning, he's fine, right? But if you're seeing that somebody actually does not want to go and they're the ones who are leading, then you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? I also do think that if we're going to have this counseling with parents, you ought to have it with teachers as well, Eric, because you cannot run away with the fact that one of the greatest influences over kids in school is their teachers.
Yep.
And there's some messages that they pass, subliminal or otherwise, to these students. And you'll find that is what is coming out. And their hands are up. See, they're the ones who planted the seed.
It's the parents. Us teachers have no power.
Just teaching.
No? It's 7:15. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, so what else are we looking at here? 5 suspects have been seized over the Lamu attacks because we know that police are taking this quite seriously. And police are linking them to Al-Shabaab militants, even as another man has been killed. This is carried on page 8 of The Nation. So that gruesome early Monday morning attack that took place. Security agencies in Lamu are interrogating 5 suspects following the killing of 6 people in Wido village on Sunday night, even as another man was murdered Monday night. John Gishoya, 62, was killed and 3 houses torched in another attack at Bobo Sumkia village Monday night. He was cut with a panga on his leg by attackers who then burnt the house with him inside around 10 p.m. Yesterday, local security officers said the 5 suspects were being investigated for alleged links to Al-Shabaab terror group, which is being blamed for the killing. Lamu County Police Commander Moses Mureithi said more suspects would be arrested in the ongoing swoop in Wido and surrounding villages. According to Mr. Mureithi, those who are arrested, both locals and non-locals, we do not want to speculate anything. The 5 we are holding are suspected Al-Shabaab. We are continuing to do this investigation. And so we know that 6 people were killed. Now, with the Monday night execution, that was now 7. They've intensified security in all areas of Lamu, so residents should not be worried. And that was one thing that residents were worried about. Should they come out? Should they stay indoors? What should they do? Many were worried about staying indoors because you could be killed and torched in your own home. And then they were also worried about going out because, anything could happen. So Mureithi, as the PC, has said it's okay. We are intensifying security, so you should be all right as we look for these attackers.
In addition to, looking at Al-Shabaab and the style of the executions and the style of the attacks, is it possible that there's some elements who are taking advantage of the Al-Shabaab tag to perpetrate this insecurity?
So that it can be just blamed on Al-Shabaab.
So it can be blamed on Al-Shabaab, but it ends up having the same impact, which is create fear, which is forced displacement of people. Because there's also this story that says there could be a link to land disputes.
Yeah.
In these particular attacks. Multiple sources in Lamu have ruled out the involvement of Al-Shabaab militants in the attack. They link the attack to land ownership disputes. Those killed were among squatters who have occupied part of the 63,000-acre ranch whose ownership has been disputed for 18 years. Other parcels of land in the area are also earmarked for adjudication, titling and settlement of squatters, according to Thomas Karanja, a village elder. It's also emerging that land disputes are fueled by planned state infrastructure projects like the railway line and roads. Remember, there's LAPSET and all. This is Lamu.
Yes.
There's the work that the Jubilee has been doing in terms of titling of land. Now, these people have been living in a 63,000 acre ranch whose ownership has been disputed for the last 18 years.
Yes.
And now we're just about to get to the point where the issue is supposed to be resolved and titles are going to be issued. So, is it possible that there are actually people who are perpetrating this, using all this manner of methods of attacks?
To put a message across and then being able to slap the blame on somebody else.
Yeah, it looks like it's Al-Shabaab, but the end justifies the means. The end is that people are going to leave this area.
And then you can occupy.
Then you'll occupy it.
Well, look, I mean, as an option, definitely it looks as though something like that could happen, because then why out of the blue then would Al-Shabaab come here? The last time we saw attacks like this were 2014, 2015. It would be interesting to see if we did have any land clash uprising sentiments being said around land at that time as well. And then you could see whether it was a revisitation now of the same thing currently. It would be interesting to see. I think I'm going to read up on that and see if there was at that time.
At the time in Paketoni and all, there was the Paketoni attack was more directly linked to Al-Shabaab, and how even the messaging that as they were walking around, what they were saying, it was more Al-Shabaab. Then there have been other attacks where you ask yourself, is this Al-Shabaab?
Or a resource issue?
Or is this a resource issue? Or also a political issue? You know, trying to suppress voters in some certain areas for political reasons. So all these things have to be factored in. We are in a political silly season.
Anything can be used. Anything can be used.
Okay, I have a story here. Pomoni Maternity Hospital is in the news again following the death of a pregnant woman. The family of Mary Anyango has blamed her death on alleged negligence by the hospital. The husband, Peter Mwangi, says the hospital did not provide them with any information on what transpired from the time his wife was admitted to the time she was referred to Kenyatta National Hospital. All that nurses told me was that my wife had a stillbirth, but there were no records or any further information. He says he was also told his wife had suffered eclampsia, which had led to her death. Eclampsia is a condition where convulsions occur in a pregnant woman suffering from high blood pressure. It all started on the 15th of December around 4 a.m. when Mwangi took his 32-year-old wife to Pumwani after she developed labor pains. They did not allow me to see her after she was admitted. They didn't even allow me to take food to her. He says he became suspicious when Anyango was asked to do an ultrasound at a different hospital, whose results were not handed to the family. We paid 1,400 for the ultrasound. Later, my wife called to say that she has been told that she had a stillbirth. The hospital's medical superintendent, John Mwangi, says Anyango developed epileptic seizures and had to be put on oxygen. He says the patient was not undergoing any procedure in the theatre. We kept her there to support her breathing as we sourced for an ICU bed at KNH because it had become an emergency. The patient was 7 months pregnant, but she had a stillbirth.
I have so many questions. She had an epileptic seizure. She had a seizure. We don't know if it was epileptic. Did she suffer from epilepsy?
The medical superintendent says epileptic seizure.
Did she suffer from epilepsy previously? And even now, Mwangi maybe can tell us, was she an epileptic patient? Because you can have a seizure, but it's not necessarily epilepsy. 1. 2, she had a stillbirth. Did they produce the body of the child? And then why were they hiding this information in terms of the results of the scan, in terms of asking her to go to another hospital? And why did they not share this information with them? So many questions.
Or did they share the information?
Why would he say that they didn't give the scans to them? They refused to show them that. Why? Why would they not allow him to see her? It's his wife. He brought her in. Why would they not allow him to see her? Why shrouded in so much secrecy? It means that they are trying to hide something. Why? Somebody's reported to hospital, they're unwell, they've come with their next of kin. That's the person that you should be giving information, and she's pregnant. And then she dies. She dies.
There's clearly something here between what the hospital is saying and what the husband is saying. It would be, it would be curious to know why Pumwani would behave this way with this particular one patient. Pumwani is a maternity hospital.
Yes.
Everybody in Pumwani is there
because of maternity issues. Everybody.
So are other people complaining that they're not being allowed to see their kin? That they do not understand what's happening? Are other patients, are those mothers who are walking out with their babies saying the same, talking about the same kind of treatment? Why this particular one?
Why this? Or did something go wrong and they were not able to handle it and then they started to cover it up and then they just had to cover it up until the end? In this particular case, did something go wrong?
But it's not the first time that something would be going wrong. I mean, it's a maternity hospital. Things go wrong. Things are likely to go wrong.
But then why not share them? By nature, you know what they say is that the abnormality, especially when you're looking at maternity, the abnormality is for you to go through the birthing process and have a child normal. That's abnormal. You would expect the natural thing is for something to go wrong or to have a kind of complication somewhere or the other.
Yeah.
So it is expected. You hope and pray that everything goes well, but it's expected that something could go wrong. But my question is, if all integrity is being applied and something went wrong, which could be explained, why not just explain?
You know, there are some cases, by the way, and we talk about this all the time. In fact, City keeps raising this. It's the way doctors communicate with their patients. Sometimes a doctor, because you're busy and all, so you assume that what you've said has been understood.
Yes,
maybe he said that it was an epileptic seizure. Guy had got eclampsia. But you've just said that and you've moved on because you're dealing with a second emergency and you don't have someone, you don't have a department that sit down to actually take somebody through. So this is what's happening. This is why. This is why they're here. This is what we expect to see. This is, if you don't take that seriously, if you don't take your patient through the journey of treating them, they don't understand what you're doing. Just write things and say, go do an X-ray.
Go next.
Go there, go do an X-ray, bring the results. Okay. Now I'm taking you to ICU. Now I'm looking for an ICU. I'm putting you in theater. In theater, you're getting oxygen. So are you in theater to get operated on, or are you in theater for
what's happening?
You don't know what's happening. And especially now the other person. This is a 30-year-old man and a 32-year-old wife. Explain to them.
Why not explain? This is my question. Because like we said, it's normal for things to go wrong. But then now, if you're not explaining and you're not sharing the information, then you're trying to hide something. And then what does that mean? That maybe you played a part in things going wrong and then you don't want to take responsibility for it? 2 people's lives have been lost here, a child and a mother.
There's an interesting story that started yesterday in the papers and it's coming again today. And I've seen this kind of stories before. So yesterday there was an accusation by oil marketers who were saying that during this Christmas period, there's the way we get oil, we all put together bids to supply, and then one person is given the contract to supply for the industry.
Yes.
So the person who had won the contract to supply for the industry was identified, supplied. But then there's this other company that imported fuel on behalf of some other cartel of companies over the Christmas period, and they were hoping that we don't see. The story was in the papers yesterday. The story is a full-page backstory in The Nation today. Firms protest importation of 30,000 tons of what they're calling illegal oil. The story is also on page 29 of the Standard again today. Oil marketer is warning of petrol stockout amid supply row. Ruby's Energy is warning of a possible shortage of super petrol across the country. This is after the discharge of a consignment of the fuel from a rival company prevented other oil firms from accessing their fuel cargoes already at the Mombasa court. So, if more fuel has been brought to the country illegally or legally, why would there be a stockout? Why were you having a stockout? Because there's more product.
Why? There's more than adequate supply.
Because it's Gulf Energy imported 30,000 metric tons. Ruby's Energy says that this was wrong. Wait for more on this. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis
The latest
Assetto.
news from
Members of
around the
Parliament are today
world.
expected to continue debating the political parties
SpiceFM.
Bill 2021 in a three-day special sitting as convened by National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui. Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Amos Munya, who is the sponsor of the bill, says he has marshalled enough members to ensure that the amendments are dispensed with and the bill forwarded to the Senate for concurrence. He said that they are pushing to have the bill ready for assent by President Uhuru Kenyatta by the end of January, despite the filibustering witnessed in the last two special sittings last week. These SMPs loyal to Deputy President William Ruto have promised to ensure that their amendments in the political parties' bill sail through, insisting that they have numbers to carry the day. Garissa Town MP Eden Dwale says that they have lined up to 50 new amendments in what is seen as the grand scheme to delay the passage of the bill. Newswire will be following up this story for you and bringing you up to date on the development. Now, Deputy President William Ruto has continued to oppose rumours that he may not be sworn in as president if he wins the August 9th general elections. Speaking in Kakamega and Bungoma counties, where he launched the Hustler Nation campaigns, Ruto assured his supporters that his victory would not be thwarted, further throwing jabs at the wealthy and influential people supporting his fierce opponent Raila Odinga, saying that victory is given by the people.
Wamesema hata huyu deputy president akishinda kura ati deep state na system haiwezi kukubali atangazwe kuwa president. Mnasikia hiyo porojo? Mnasikia hiyo propaganda? Sasa mimi nataka niulize nyinyi watu wa hapa duniani, nyinyi mkiniona mimi ni mtu ya kunyang'anywa kura kweli?
He maintains that the wealthy are only protecting their interests and not the needs of the people of Kenya.
Hawa watu tunataka tuwaambie, huyo ambaye mumeamua ndiye atakuwa rais wenu, huyo kibaraka wenu ambaye mumesema atakuja kuchunga mali yenu, ambaye mumesema ati nyinyi mumechagua, sisi wananchi hapa chini tutachagua rais ambaye atasimamia haki ya watu wote.
Now, the High Court order suspending the government directive that required everybody seeking in-person service from the government to be fully vaccinated has been upheld. Justice Anthony Mrimba, while making the ruling, also consolidated all the 5 petitions challenging the government's decision. The LCS and other respondents have now 14 days to file and serve their responses, and the petitioners are at liberty to file any supplementary submissions within 7 days. The case will be heard on the 1st of February. These as 7 people succumbed to COVID-19, 2,402 people tested positive for the disease, and 10.2 million vaccines have been administered in the country. 5 suspects are in police custody over the attack in Widhu Majambeni in Lamu that saw 6 people killed. National Police Service spokesperson Bruno Shioso says the suspects are being grilled over the attack, which is linked to land disputes. He also says that they are also following leads in a bid to establish whether the attack has any connections with the outlawed Al-Shabaab militia. The owner of Orbit Chemicals Company has now come out to declare that they are the rightful owners of the disputed Mukuru Kwanjenga piece of land. Sanchan Chandaria says his family bought the land, which was divided into 1,329 pieces, of which 456 have so far been sold off. He says his family purchased the land from National Bank of Kenya in the 80s. These escorters have since taken over the land, with others saying that they also bought it legally. However, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services also claims that the land was given to them by Orbit Chemicals to build roads in the region. The Mukuru Kwanjenga land dispute has seen the police guard the region to protect squatters who are living there from rebuilding their homes.
We feel as a company very cheated. We are very saddened by the outcomes. However, we feel the government, the police were doing their jobs. Their job was to protect the landowner, to uphold the law, and to enforce court orders. Any story that you hear contrary to this is blatant fallacies, and we will stand by it. We have the evidence, we have the court orders, we have the proof. Orbit Chemical Industries is the owner of the titles, and we will continue to sell going forward until we have achieved what we set out to do.
Internationally, and 5 of the world's largest nuclear powers pledged to work together towards a world without nuclear weapons in a rare statement of unity amid rising East-West tensions. The statement also stressed the importance of preventing conflict between nuclear weapon states from escalating, describing it as a foremost responsibility. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, Mombasa is still looking at some traffic and quite some actually getting in and out of the city. In and outbound is starting to pile up quite some. It looks like Wednesday is the day that folks are getting back into the city. That Imaradaima stretch will continue to be a thing, at least for now. And Langata Road also piling up quite some back towards the Wilson Airport and then out towards the roundabout at Timor. Raila Odinga Way doesn't look too bad, at least for now. Uhuru Highway also building up. Jogoo Road has been a thing this whole week, and we're looking at Landis Road, then spilling over to Kamkunji, out towards Haile Selassie. In and outbound, that is a problem. Gong Road also building up a little bit. And for the first time this week, we see some traffic on the Thika Superhighway, just past the Pangani Underpass, going then towards the direction of Survey. Kiambu Road as well, going then towards Muthaiga Square. Limuru Road in and outbound, that's moving along very slowly. We're also seeing traffic chugging along Waiaki Way. And Ring Road Westlands seems to be a pain in the neck for some folks this morning. Shall we keep an eye on things? Help us out here, guys. Where are you stuck? Where have you found an alternative? Would you share? SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7. Very good morning to you this day, the 5th day of January 2022. Happy Wednesday, wherever you're tuned in from this morning. C.T. Muga, our colleague, is not yet back. He's away for a couple of days extra, recharging his reserve batteries. So in the room with you is Eric Latiff and Ndu Okoh. And yes, from Edwin Washiro this morning, I'm listening to the ground.
Two so far.
Listening to the ground.
We have agreed by 10 o'clock.
You shall know.
I'll begin.
I have a vote from Edwin Washira for whichever seat I go for.
Doesn't matter.
Don't matter. We're winning. And then, who's that who's saying that I ran for my life?
Pete Ongera.
Haters gonna hate. Today's proverb is a Somali proverb again. Don't set out on a journey using someone else's donkey. Don't set out on a journey using someone else's donkey. Use your own, of course.
Or don't set out.
Or don't set out at all. Okay. So, let's have a conversation about the upcoming general election. And people, of course, are how many horses, how many donkeys? Are they on the race? Are they not on the race? Our guest this morning is somebody who wants to be the next member of parliament for Bomachoge Borabu constituency in Kisii County. His name is Engineer Kimori Machoka. Good morning, Kimori.
Good morning. Thank you for welcoming me here.
Karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room.
Good.
So, Bomachoge Borabu constituency.
Yes.
This is in Kisii County.
In Kisii.
and you want to be the next MP.
Good.
So let's start by just understanding. So who is Engineer Kimori Machoka?
Engineer Kimori Evans Machoka is a political engineer. Professionally, I'm a civil engineer by profession. And I've worked in Kenya National Highways Authority for 5 years after graduating from the University of Nairobi. I've designed several roads in this country. The biggest road I've done is Busia-Malaba Road, costing 1.2 billion. That was from 2017 to early this year. That is for the experience
2017
part.
to early this year, designing?
No, not designing.
Or from design to
design,
completion?
supervision, and completion.
Okay.
Yes. Politically, I'm a student leader. I was former student leader. I contested for SONU chairmanship position in 2013. I've been a student leader from 2010 to 2013. So the political rabble-rousing is a part that's why I say I'm a political engineer. Career-wise, I'm an engineer. By passion, I'm a politician.
Okay.
Yes.
Engineering is a profession of solutions, as we always say.
Exactly.
Right? So now politics, on the other hand, may
Yes.
not necessarily be a profession of solutions.
Exactly.
You've talked about rabble-rousing. Why make the jump?
You know, in this country, it's a fact. Most of the decisions are made at the political stage. And that one you cannot run from it. When you look at even the bills that comes to Parliament, even the way we live in life, our stage in terms of life has been coined by the political arena. That's a fact. You can't run away from it. And if politics does not affect you as per your thinking, in one way or another, it will affect you in terms of the decisions that are being made. So why should I not be part of the people as a youth to make the decision, other than complaining outside that this needs to be done, this needs to be done? Take the stage. That's why I request the youths, let us elect a person who thinks of the next generation, not next election.
So you think about the next generation.
The next generation.
What do you think is needed in this country? Because I would like to think, I may be naive in my thinking, but I would like to think that anybody who is now asking Kenyans for a vote today is thinking about the things that they would either like to continue that have gone on in a positive developmental path, or would want to introduce things that would then solve the problems, bring about solutions to the problems that have dogged the country for the longest time. So what would you like to either change or continue or solve?
To me, I can give you an example. When you go to Japan, when a child crosses the zebra crossing, he will turn back and say thank you by bowing down.
To the zebra crossing?
No, to the person who has stepped, who has stopped.
I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know. So when he'll bow down saying thank you. In Kenya, it's different. What makes it different? It is because of how we think. So it is changing on the perception, how we think, and it starts by the leaders. That's why I say the greatness of a nation's future depends on how we think, but not how accurately we remember. If our thinking is wrong, we will be in discipline. But if you have a right thinking, we'll be able to have discipline in our society, and we'll be able to change so many things, like just simple things like littering. It is how we think. So it starts by the leaders. Then the leaders generates it down there. People behave the way their leaders behave. So this is the right tool. We have the right tool. Our ballot, our vote. Yes.
Let me ask. So it sounds very good when you say that. I mean, it's about how we think. It's about morals and our values as a society.
The integrity.
And the integrity that we have as a people. You are a former student leader. And you say, I mean, you are a student leader at the University of Nairobi.
Good.
You campaigned to be the SONU chairman. Did you win it?
No, we closed the university then because of the the wrangles that happened there.
Okay.
Yes.
So then let's talk about your tenure as a student leader at the University of Nairobi.
Good.
How many strikes did we see during your time? How many, this is 2010 to 2013.
Exactly.
And there are people who will remember. How many people would call in today, this morning, and say, you know what, I was driving along Nyeri Road or along Uhuru Highway or along that road and I got stoned by students?
That's a very good question. You know, why student leadership is radical? It is because of the people who have refused some changes. I remember our time, one of the things that we striked is because we lacked Wi-Fi and artificial intelligence. So we were telling the Vice Chancellor, we're in the University of Nairobi, why is there no Wi-Fi in the university? So there are simple things, it all goes to leadership. So you'll find students at that young age, they are yearning for small things. But there are people who are in discipline at a certain stage in terms of now the leadership, they're not able to think. You will find that young guy who is yearning, he's spending so much money on a simple thing called Wi-Fi, which the university can, that's an example, can provide. And that one will make the students not strike. That's a very good example. Going now to the economic tension, you will find that students spend so much money in terms of now school fees here and there, but there is what you call food. If supposedly today the Vice Chancellor wakes up and say, we are increasing food in the university, or we are increasing school fees in the university, then for sure students sometimes even try to access the Vice Chancellor. It becomes a difficult situation. You will find them, they resolve to strikes. Our days, strikes were so much, but they realized if you negotiate with students, it reduces.
Okay.
So it goes back to the leadership.
Yeah. But now let's talk about, so there's the
Yes,
issue
those
with
are
the
the
leadership of the institution,
Yes.
all right? But then there's also the leadership of the students,
Yes.
where you are.
Exactly.
As a leader of the students, and you're understanding these are the challenges that we are facing. This
Yes.
is what we are agitating for, 1, 2, 3 issues.
Exactly.
As the leader of the students, and you say that let's then pour out onto the streets,
Yes.
let's block the highway, let's tone vehicles. Is that what you're talking about, the values and responsibilities that you want to inculcate in leadership?
You see, sometimes when there is a strike, you'll find there are rogue people who join the strike, other than students. So sometimes it's not students as per se. But before that strike level is reached, you remember even during the multi-party democracy, they had to fight during the Moi regime so that we get this democracy. So you will find there are things which doesn't come easy. You have to be a fighter. And Sonu is good because it taught us a lot. It is baptism by fire.
So did you realize these wins that were so highly sought after using the methods that you did? Did you realize the wins?
Yes, I realized because if you compare, we made the people understand that you must not win through war alone. You can win through negotiations. That's why nowadays, when is the last time the University of Nairobi striked?
But the current leadership, maybe to take credit
is
for that. Why your leadership taking credit for today?
Look at the current Vice Chancellor. The current Vice Chancellor now was part of the people who were fighting for change. He understood how to solve the student leadership. That's why there is very little strikes in the University of Nairobi. But then, it used to be so radical because the people there thought that we were bringing out ideas which could not change. Yes. So it is the current leadership, especially now the Vice Chancellor. The Vice Chancellor understands how to play the student politics. Yes, that's why it's different.
So coming back to the issue of national leadership.
Yes.
Why go for MP? There are 6 elected leadership positions.
Very good.
Why did you settle on member of the National Assembly?
Now, I was contesting for Governor Nairobi. That was 2021 when Sonko was removed. In the process, my father died.
In the expected by-election?
Yes, in the expected by-election. I was contesting for Governor Nairobi, and I was serious. I would even Gengeton produced for me a song and all. It was all serious. In the process, unlucky, my father died this year. Now, with that, I had to do consultation even with myself and see the best. I'm just 32 years old. After governorship, where am I going? Then there are so many things that can be done in parliament in terms of now the experience, the stage, and learning. So, and my people in Bomachoge, Borabu, there are so many things which I want to change from now having that area to be a better place than it is right now. So, and being in parliament, there are the laws which specifically I can change. I can tell you that they are, as an engineer, the ideas that I've come out with, I've patented some of the ideas that will change the medical industry in terms of how we keep record, and it will be able to remove the misdiagnosis. So these are things which, if you allow me, I can tell you. So there are amendments in parliament which can change this country.
Okay.
So parliament is the best place as a leader.
So last year,
yes.
Now, was it last year or 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
2020.
2021.
You wanted to be governor of Nairobi.
Yes.
Okay, so you wanted to go for an executive
position.
leadership position.
Yes.
And then, of course, the by-election in Nairobi did not take place.
Did not take place.
But there's going to be an election for governor of Nairobi this year.
Yes.
But then you choose not to go for that one again. You change even the county. You go into a different county. Explain.
Let me explain that. First, Governor Nairobi, from my calculation, for you to win this seat called governor, you require not less than 300 million. That is number one. Yes.
For the election process.
For the election process, not less than 300 million. You remember there are 17 constituencies.
Yeah.
So with this constituency, you need to go to the grassroots, make inroads properly. Agents alone can cost you 20 million. Just to have agents alone. I'm just 32 years old. Where do I have that money?
You had it. You were hoping
No.
to have
I wanted to be governor of Nairobi.
That time, the stakes were not high. I'm just realistic. The stakes were not high.
In the by-election.
In the by-elections, they were not high. Now, you see, the incumbents, the parliamentaries incumbents are going to come. Then, unfortunately, there is an opportunity at home, which as a member of parliament, I can go and change and help my people.
How much would it require you to campaign? And
in Kisii is very critical.
In a Kisii constituency.
In a Kisii constituency, Kisii politics is very tricky. You have to go home by home, house by house, whereby now you'll require not less than 15 million. That is the truth. You will have to go for nomination, then you go to the general election. Like now, me, I'll be contesting with ODM. So you first start by home endorsement. Do you have an endorsement at home? That is the reality.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I was last week at home. The whole of the week I was at home. I was now consolidating my people and consulting. They have accepted. Actually, they respect my father more, not even me as a person. So that is where they feel like they want to cry on the ballot.
Okay.
So it is an opportunity which I feel I need to help my people as an engineer. I will build roads there. I will put infrastructure, give people employment, and serve the country.
So those are those things that you've listed: build roads, equip infrastructure, etc., etc. They're not being done now.
Now,
are they?
What is happening right now? You see, sorry to say that you can elect a member of parliament who is not well connected in terms of now how even to start the infrastructure. To be honest, about roads, it is not about member of parliament. But our people believe that it is the people who are, the person whom they elected is supposed to do the infrastructure roads. So you have to go to the parastatals which are responsible for infrastructure in this country, where I've worked with, and I know most of the engineers in the country, to give you roads or to put the road section in the budget, and that is what is happening in the country. But it is legislative representation that is the key component as a member of parliament.
Okay, so my question is, again though, that these things, are they happening right now in Bomachoge Borabu?
To be honest, they are not.
They're not happening?
They're not.
Okay. How?
That's why they are running for change.
Okay. So how will you make these things happen?
I'll make these things happen this way. One, I have worked in the road sector. Not even myself. My father was in this road sector for 25 years before he went to South Sudan. Luckily, I have been interconnected across the engineering field in terms of now road networks. I know how budget is being done. I will request the engineers then, please put this road, because it is needed by the people as the member of parliament to be in the budget. I just need 4 roads, which I know that can be done by a budget of around 500 million, which the member of parliament now does not understand how. Are you getting? Then there is water sector. To date, our mothers here at home and our aunties and our sisters are still fetching water from the rivers, which our grandfathers used to do.
Yes.
And it is a matter of just piping, then allowing the water to have tapped water.
Okay.
Water is devolved.
I'm giving you the how affected our people are.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So, in your mind, right now,
yes,
what are the critical things that are stopping what you want to do from happening right now? What are those things that are stopping those things from happening right now?
It is just the leadership. The person in who is there.
Leadership not doing what?
The leadership not being executed well.
Okay.
In terms of not knowing how to do it. I don't blame the person who is there. He does not understand how to do it. You see, I'm an engineer by profession. I can say this road, when it's being done, it's supposed to be done this way. I can oversee. Are you getting?
Yes.
So when you have the network you can't buy. It is something that you just create. So with this, you can be able to help your people. Other than that, anyway, that is Bumachoge Borabu. At the country right now, I predict that you're going to have the best parliament next year.
Okay.
This year, actually. because the agitation of the youths going to leadership and the yearning for change. In fact, the people, you see, I've realized member of parliament in this country, most of the regions, they go and elect a person whom they have done what you call interviews, properly interviewed, because the people there will ask you, what do you want to do? I've been at home. The people want change completely. And that's the truth. You will see the next parliament that is coming, it will be a very serious parliament.
That's an interesting perspective that you bring in, because we keep talking about that every time here, in terms of when the aspirants are coming to us and seeking our votes, are they coming to tell us what they want to do, or are they coming to ask us what we want to see done? Now, from your experience on the ground, as you say, you've been spending time talking to people, going door to door. Are people telling you, do they have a list of this? We know what our needs are.
You know what they do? Nowadays, I've been on the grassroots, like now in Kisii. To be honest, from the gubernatorial position, they look at your history. They'll not know what you're going to do first, but they'll ask, who is this person? Where does he come from? Was he brought up well? And they're very serious. Was he brought up well?
What do they look for in that?
They look at how you are brought up, how you behaved. Leave alone, yes, you can be coming here and there, you have moved from one constituency to another, but they'll ask from your home area, who is this person? That's why I told you I need to get clearance from home. Because the elders there will communicate to other elders. You see, there's still kind of communication, not even through mobile. They communicate, this son is good.
Okay.
But if you don't get endorsement from home, where the elders will consult.
So the first thing they're looking for is your character.
History.
Okay.
They benchmark you. Who is this person? And the people who do that very well is the elders, because they even know your father. They'll ask your mother or your father, have you given him clearance? If your mother says no, they'll just listen to you. And that is where, if you remember, there's a time where there's a by-election in Kisii in 2007, where in South Mogirango, it emerged, and I think it was Manson. He emerged from nowhere. But there were choppers here and there, people were campaigning. He went door to door. So it is I even ask countrywide, vet the person you are going to vote for. Because if you vet this person, he will remember the challenges he passed through.
Okay.
Then come with an MOU.
Okay. So after they've cleared you, they've seen, all right, so this is who you are, this is your background, this is where you come from, this is your family tree. What else do they look for?
You see, when they have cleared you, then they'll now start telling you their problems. Automatically, they'll tell you, we need A, B, C. If you don't implement that, you're out.
Or immediate needs.
They'll tell, no, not immediate. Like now, there's a road from Getumo, going straight to Tono. I've agreed with my people that I'm going to implement that road. If I don't implement that road, the next election, I'll not be there.
That will be something against which
Yes, it is a mark, and they don't forget. So that is a benchmark. And as a country, the people at the village level, and I want to thank them. These guys are doing a very good job. They vet you. They vet properly. It's different from Nairobi politics, whereby you can just create a wave. You must go to the grassroots and tell them who you are. In fact, I was shocked when I announced my candidature, including my uncles. The view was different. Now come and communicate now as a candidate.
Your own uncle's telling you that. We don't know you.
No, we don't know you. We don't know you.
Tell us what it is that you're going to do.
Yes. If you pass, it's like a mark. If you pass that mark, now they say, this guy is
serious.
Has a vision. Now they communicate.
Let's take a break and then we'll continue this conversation. Engineer Kimori Machoka is our guest in the studio. He's a former student leader. He has worked, he's a roads engineer. He's worked in the road sector in the country. He wants to be the next MP for Bomachoge Borabu constituency. A young man who wants to be a member of the National Assembly. And we're asking, so why you and what do you hope to see? What do you hope to get done? That's a conversation we'll be having with him after we take this quick break at 29 minutes to 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Guys, dinner is ready.
Please pass the chicken.
Wow, Mom, the chicken looks yummy. Get ready to dig in.
Without a doubt, Kenchik chicken is usually the star attraction on dinner tables across Kenya because we place the highest priority on the health of the chicken we farm and the goodness of the food we provide. This is strengthened by our absolute certainty of traceability from our farm to your family. Kenchik, we're cuckoo about tasty chicken.
It's a new year and there's plenty to see at the cinemas. As always, DJ Absolute and I have all the info you need on the must-watch movies of 2022. And we have just the movie to kick off the new year. Join us on Sugar and Spice from 11 a.m. this whole week to stand a chance to win 3,000 shillings worth of airtime and a pair of movie tickets to an exclusive screening of the latest blockbuster in town, The 355, starring Kenya's very own Lupita Nyong'o at the Junction Mall, courtesy of Safaricom Data Save. Don't miss out.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Okay,
You're listening to
Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 25 today and lows of 15. We're looking at 13 and mostly sunny in Nakuru City, highs of 27 and lows of 13. It's sunny at 11 in Nyeri, highs of 25, and we're looking at highs of 25 in Eldoret as well, where it's currently sunny at 13. Mostly cloudy conditions at 26 in Mombasa, highs of 32 and lows of 26, and it's partly sunny at 28 in Malindi. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 27. Kisumu is sunny at 19, highs of 29, and we're looking at sunny conditions at 17 in Kakamega. Mostly sunny at 17 in Kampala, highs of 28 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is sunny at 27, that'll be the low for today, going to highs of 31. Johannesburg is sunny at 16 with highs of 28, and we're looking at now a foggy Lagos morning at 24, highs of 33 and lows of 23. Okay, Kinshasa, it's cloudy at 24, beckoning the rain, highs of 31 and lows of 23.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, inching closer and closer to 8 o'clock, and it looks like the Thika Superhighway today is when we've woken up after the holiday, because we have traffic as far back as Survey today, again for the first time this week, and it's quite clogged on Kiambu Road in and outbound as well. Coming off of New Muthui, coming into Westlands, Peponi, that whole area is a mishmash of traffic, Ring Road, Westlands, Wayaki Way, everything. So you know what we're going to do to solve that problem? Use the Red Hill Link Road, get out of that mess, a longer route into the city, but it will be all right for you, or go the other way and use your bypass bypasses that take you out towards Kikuyu. Okay, what else are we looking at? We're looking at traffic on Gong Road today, quite some. That whole Kilimani area, then out coming on this other side of Upper Hill, quite some traffic. And it's all spilling over from Uhuru Highway today. Langata Road also, some traffic. And industrial area is a mess from Lunga Lunga to Makadara, out towards Kimathi and Bahati. Buruburu, that area then going out towards Jogo Road, where you now join with the madness that started there early this morning. In and outbound traffic on Mombasa Road as well. And we're looking at Weybridge through to the SGR out towards Cabanas and General Motors. So Wednesday is the day that traffic has decided it'll do its thing. Through all of it, let's be sane. Can you talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter? Let us know what you see, where you might be stuck. Text as well on 40127.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is the Situation Room. Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, and our guest this hour, Engineer Kimori Machoka, who wants to be the next MP for Bomachoge Burabu constituency. There's Diru Shah, who's been holding on the line and has a question for you. Diru, good morning.
Morning. I enjoyed this program for last 2 years. I was in London, and I've been really following you people always. I really appreciate. And my question to the MP is very clear. Last 10 years, what has he done for the community? Not money-wise. What has he helped? Has he got birth certificate? Has he got the local hospital blood? Has he got any poor people, any help without money? And my next question is very simple solution to his. He doesn't need 15 million. If he has worked hard for the community, you don't have to bribe people. Just put a bucket there and say everybody puts a shilling on that bucket. These are your actual watts. You don't need 15 million.
Right.
If you get a shilling from a person, which is, if you get 10,000, those are 10,000 watts of yours. Confirm.
That's very true. Thank you very much, Jiru.
Okay.
And Karibu Nyumbani. So, he says, what have you done? You know, not just saying, you know, I've spent money on this and the other, but what have you done?
Very good question. You see, part of the vetting, when you're being done at home, you're asked, what have you done for the community? I've done two major things, other than helping some of the orphans there get bursaries here and there. Two major things. 3 market centers. I've put lights, whereby there is no, that's the duty of the county government.
Yeah.
I've put market lights, which helps Mama Bogas at least be able to...
These are what we commonly call Mulika Mwizis.
Yes.
All
I've
right.
put lights there. 3 major market centers. Yesterday, I'm very happy to announce, I spoke to... there's now electricity in my home area. From the time God created this world, we have never had electricity. I went to REA, Kenya Rural Electrification. I spoke to the engineer there. He has agreed that before the elections, we will have electricity in my home area, where I come from. And that covers a population of 1,000 people with no electricity.
How remote is this? What village is it?
It is called... it is from Getumu to Igorera.
From Getumu to Igorera?
Igorera village.
Has not had...
electricity. It is something that my father has been fighting for. Luckily, with that, I think it is because of that respect, we're now going to have electricity. So,
you know those two things that you've said?
Yes.
So let's start with electricity. The Uhuruto administration, when they came in, they said, we are going to expand access to electricity countrywide.
Exactly.
They've been boasting of over 80% connectivity countrywide.
The problem is not Uhuruto. I can give you where the problem came from.
What is it?
It is politics. When my father was contesting for MP, there was some political rivalry then. That now, you see, it is the member of parliament who allocates where the electricity is going to pass. We were fighting for us to get electricity for the first time. but it was diverted by the current member of parliament.
To where?
To other areas. Our area didn't get. Now, you know, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga came to my father's funeral. It gave us respect, high respect. I can be able to call someone, at least they listen. I spoke now to the engineer who is in charge of REA. He agreed. And the contractor is going to be on site within this year.
You've said something that is interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
Kimori. That means, so what happens essentially is that a member of parliament then goes into government to take care of the needs of their own people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So even this person who you had a conversation with,
yes,
and you said now it was diverted, they were basically doing the same thing which you are saying you are going to do.
You see what happens? You are asked, there are things which I remember, if development comes to your area, naturally they'll go to the elected person who is there. So the member of parliament will be asked, where do we pass this electricity? Yes, the priority. So you will find naturally there are things now he'll just communicate.
For sure.
To his side
to
of
his side.
constituency.
To his side. But when you now tell him now, we need this as a need, you will see now we don't get it. So it is now the person who has now the need of the people. Like now I went to the engineer who is responsible for that. He sent people on the ground, did the designs. Very soon we are going to have electricity. And that's what I think will give me the most votes, actually.
Engineer Kimori, you're a young person, young leader who wants to go into national election in elective politics. Do you see that as a problem?
I see it as a big problem.
The fact that an elected leader is the one to be asked by a national agency where to prioritize a project.
Yeah. I see it as a very big problem.
How do you hope
deal with
to deal with that?
This one is very easy. We need to remove that, even if it is a clause or an amendment to be done in parliament, that we should not have members of parliament being consulted on certain issues. Because you will find, like now development, he is now taking to a certain area. Let it be community-based, whereby you are having a representative from a certain community. Or they can do what you call an SSD analysis. They ask or they check. Projects are being checked. Like now the Presidential Delivery Unit is a unit which they can use to check which project has not been completed. Are you getting? The President's Delivery Unit has done a very good job. This is something that I've witnessed personally because I've been in the road sector. You will find contractors colluding with certain people, then the project stalls. But when you have this President's Delivery Unit, the PDU, they'll go to the ground, it's a certain streamline, they'll communicate to the head of state that there's a project here which is not being done in a correct way. Like in Kisii, you see the roads which have been done around Kisii. It is through the PDU. Personally, I've witnessed.
But there are still things that are not being captured by PDU. For example,
yes,
electricity connection to your village.
Exactly. Now that one, it depends. So it depends with the leadership then. You see now the leadership is there.
Yeah.
But if the PDU, like now, if they are given more powers, in fact, I think PDU is the best. Because these people are above now as the workers in terms of now, including the member of parliament in your own area. They'll communicate to the respective ministry that this project needs to be done.
And this is the practice. This is, according to you, this is not the practice.
This is not
currently.
the practice.
Okay.
A member of parliament can be consulted, yes, but he'll be told, I think there is this area. You see now the PDU report will come that, yes, you're a member of parliament in that area.
And it is okay that you represent your people.
It's good.
But that we are seeing that there are other areas where you need to get to.
So that is where the PDU needs to come in. It's a very good organ. PDU is very good. In fact, there are instances which the president was being misguided. When PDU was introduced, for sure projects started moving on. And there are other projects which you have seen have been stalling the whole country. It's because of underquoting.
Okay.
Someone underquotes. You can't finish that project.
Let's extrapolate this to the national scenario now.
Yes.
We also do know that members of parliament are responsible for legislating a lot of things then that happen in this country.
Yes.
So we've seen a total mess of things like the debt ceiling. Parliament assented to that debt ceiling was raised. We're seeing many other conversations. Right now, we're seeing this whole mess that's happening in terms of political parties and corporate membership and things like that, which they're going to duke out today, right? We're seeing so many other things in terms of legislature that Parliament is responsible for. And unfortunately, they've seemed to make a mess out of it time and time and time again. What do you see as your responsibility? In as much as, your people at home, right? You're representing them on a local level and getting some things done in terms of infrastructure and other social amenities. On the national level, what do you see as a role then that needs to be played by you as an aspiring member of parliament towards the national contribution?
A very good question. You see, as a member of parliament, there are laws you can bring in that can change the lives and save the lives of the people. Personally, there's something that I've patented called the Get Well app, whereby there's a lot of that's an example I'm giving you. There's a lot of misdiagnosis in this country, including my father's death was at first because of misdiagnosis. By the time we discovered it was cancer stage 3. This is what I'll do personally. I'll introduce a law in Parliament or an amendment in Parliament of the Medical Acts that each and every doctor in this country and a patient in this country, in terms of record keeping, should have an app. If I treat you as a doctor and give my recommendations in terms of where the prescriptions needs to be done, I will upload it in your app, whereby you can view it and be able to have your medical records. If I travel to India, I just need to give an app. I don't need to carry files.
Yeah.
So with this, another doctor, if he checks your medical history through your app, he'll be able to detect that this doctor gave a wrong prescription. He'll call the doctor and say, Daktari, I think this is what should be done. That will reduce what you call misdiagnosis. You can be able to trace back your medical history. That is something I have patented, and I'm still negotiating with the doctors in India so that it can be ratified in Parliament there, so that you can have this amendment done. I'll do the same thing when I go to Parliament in Kenya, so that you can reduce the level of misdiagnosis.
Sure, I understand that, and I think there are very many things that can be done when you're looking at the legislative assembly.
Yes, that is part of the
very many things.
Very many.
But let's look on the other side, a little bit more of a political angle to this, where across society, whether it's civil society, whether it's government, parliamentarians themselves have complained that Parliament has been captured and that it lies in the pocket of the executive. So that it really doesn't matter what's really great example or ideas that you may have or things that you want to do legislatively. If it has already been captured, and here we have vibrant spirits who want to come in and join this assembly, how would you fight that?
To me, it's very wrong for the executive to have captured Parliament, as people have said. I want to take you down to history. We remember the days of Martin Shikuku, Paul Muite, the days of Korengo, that Parliament, the days of Charity Ngilu, the days of Raila Odinga, the days of Matiba,
vibrant opposition.
The vibrancy that was there, the Young Turks, where the elders were Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. You remember those days, the days of Tom Mboya, JM Karaoke. We need to do it now by going and by electing competent leaders who will represent you properly. If we elect people who are weak, they can be captured. When Parliament is captured, it is the members of Parliament who have been captured. So to avoid all this situation, we cannot change it now. We need to change it during the election. So go and elect a competent leader.
Competency here is very, very, very subjective. And I'm going to ask you a question that's often asked by the person who occupies the seat you're occupying, City Muga. He says, all those things that you're saying now, you sound really principled and all. But we have seen people who are really principled and people who appear to mean very well going to Parliament and they change within the first month. What guarantees do we have that Engineer Kimori will not change when he goes to Parliament? That Engineer Kimori will not be the one who looks at, okay, so, my village has been disadvantaged for a long time. So, in fact, REA has brought power. Now, let me look at how I can organize for roads to be done. Let me look at how I can organize for all these other things, water to be brought. Now, because where our markets didn't have proper lighting, let me organize for sanitation now. How do we know that you will not go and be the same kind of person that we've seen before?
It's like entering into marriage. How will you know that this person will not change? You have to look at his background. At the voters, that's where the people are being vetted. Who is this person? They look at where you have come from.
And that's where the frustration of the voter comes in.
Yes.
Because they do all these things. They vet, they look at your background.
I agree. To
they
be
look
honest.
at, okay, does this person go to church? Does this person go to a religious organization? What do they do? And then the person goes in.
To be honest, I can agree with you. When you give someone power, that's when you can know his character. There are few people who will maintain. I agree with you. And it's a very difficult endeavor. And it requires a collective bargain on this situation. Because, to be honest, people change. It's very few people who will find someone like Nelson Mandela who can agitate. You can find situationals that makes people change. Whereby, I can give you an example. Even when someone is elected, he was a radical situation, then he comes and changes completely. So there are people whom at the back of their mind, they say, let me go to Parliament and take some rest. So it is as per the specific individual. That's a very difficult, I accept, it is very difficult to know how. That is why you see...
What are you preparing to do so that you're not captured yourself by the system? Because we've talked even to some members who come here and they tell us, I meant well. When I got in there, I realized that this is the system and I've got to work with the system. So I've got to cede some ground. I've got to compromise some of those things that I believed very strongly on. I've got to compromise for that to work.
You see, one of the things that makes people change, when they go to Parliament, they are hit by political realism. They expected a different political angle. Now it hits them. This is how it's done. One of the advantages I have, I was in the student organization of Nairobi University, SONU. So it is not something that it will hit me. This is what's supposed to be done. Look at the history of SONU leaders who have gone to Parliament. They are articulate in terms of now, let us stand for the country. A very good example is James Orengo. So when you look at this situation, it depends on how tested are you politically.
SONU leaders, so there is James Orengo, there is Kabando, former MP, there is Moses Kuria, current MP, there is Babu Owino, current MP. How many others do you want to use as examples?
So when you look at that, my point is, I think they are all captured. There's a time
maybe a different adjective can be used, but all right.
But anyway, that situation, I agree. It's a very difficult situation because you will find someone in Parliament, he has some loans, he needs to pay loans here and there. He'll say, hey, let me take this money and vote this other direction and save my situation. Are you getting? So I agree, it's a very difficult captivity.
Okay. Do you think, or how would you feel about social contracts signed by members of Parliament, members of the County Assembly, governors, senators, to say, we're going to do an audit of your performance over time? And should we feel as though you are not living up to the promise that you made when people were going to vote for you, then there's the option of you vacating office. What would you feel about something like that?
I think that's okay. To maintain the integrity. That one is very fine. You see, you have a solution, which I think I would advocate for that. Let us have a social memorandum between us, who are maybe the leaders, and the people. It will make even the parliamentarians to a bit be streamlined, because we'll have a track record on how you are thriving. That one is very okay. And to me, that one should be done so that you can change this country. Yes.
So started by asking you why you're going for this particular position.
Yes.
National Assembly. And there are three things that a member of the National Assembly is supposed to do: representation, legislation, oversight.
Yes.
On the oversight bit, that's why we're talking about the capture and all, and talking about
Exactly.
where we feel, for example, that the current parliament has been unable to adequately oversight the
Yes.
executive. What do you think needs to be done so the National Assembly can regain its independence and adequately oversight the executive?
One thing needs to be done when the parliamentarians go to parliament, to elect a speaker who can be able to stand firm. A speaker who is the leadership of parliament. Then the leader of majority and minorities, to elect the people who can be able to stand firm. Because these are the people who sway parliament. And they are the leadership of the current authority. So with this, it will be able to cascade down. If you elect someone who is competent, will be able to bring proper leadership to parliament. That one will help. So the leadership of parliament first, to be okay. Second, it is the people, to elect people whom they feel they can be able to bring back the glory of the National Assembly. I think for me, that one can be fine. Yes.
Now, we talked about how the electorate are vetting
Yes.
various candidates. And you said that they already, the people of your constituency, have a
Yes.
list. They know these are our needs and this is what we need to be articulated.
Yes.
From your understanding and interaction with the people, do the people have a clear demarcation and understanding of the roles of the member of the National Assembly, member of the Senate, member of the County Assembly?
I don't think they have. I don't.
Are there things that they're telling you that they need and you can clearly say this is something
that
needs to be dealt with by the MCA?
And if you tell them you can't do it, you lose the votes.
So what do you do?
So you opt to maintain silent and listen. Or, you see now, you'll have to listen. Because if they don't understand that, they know that this is our leader who is supposed to do A, B, C, including sorting my personal funeral.
Right.
And if you don't sort that, it becomes personal. I'm supposed to give you my vote, you need to sort my issues. Some are immediate. Like you see the market centers which Mama Mbogas and the vendors who are selling during maybe from 7 p.m. If you sort that need that time, if you put now the Mulikamuzi lights, they feel happy.
Yeah.
So the electorate needs to have some civic education on what needs to be done.
Who's to do it?
Who should do it though? Should there not be an invitation of such? Please come and understand what
Exactly.
it is that we do.
But
who should make that invitation?
First, it is the leaders. The culture that has already been created by the leaders, that all problems are sorted by the politicians. That is what is there in the village. And for you to remove that, you have to do what you did by creating that problems are solved by politicians. Do you know why they created that? So that they can be able to be worshipped at home. Have you ever gone to any political forum? Even if you are a businessman there seated with billions, they will not approach you. They will go to the elected person who is broke. So it is a perception that has been created. And you will find in corporates, there are some issues which can be sorted, including employment, including infrastructure, can be sorted by the private sector. And that's a fact. A country like China thrives through the private sector.
That's true.
So when you look at our situation here, you will find politicians have created a certain way that if I reach person A, B, C, my issues have been sorted.
Yeah. So we thank you very much for joining us today, Engineer. Engineer Kimori Machoka, aspirant, Member of Parliament for Bomachoge Borabu constituency, former student leader, has worked in the road sector at the Kenya National Highways Authority, now wants to be the MP for this constituency, from student leadership to national leadership.
Yes.
All the best as you go back and campaign.
Thank you.
And we always like having these conversations, alternative
Yes.
voices coming to talk to us about the future of Kenya's
Yes.
leadership.
For you, I appreciate for calling me here.
Thank you so much.
Many don't appreciate the young generation. I'm just 32 years old, but I believe The country needs to have a meticulous and a magnanimous leader.
Kabisa.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Have a good morning, everybody. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is expected in the country today for a 2-day official visit. During his visit to Kenya, Yi will sign several agreements that will give the two countries an opportunity to enhance bilateral relations and further cement the comprehensive strategic cooperation partnership between Kenya and China. According to a statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Yi is expected to pay a courtesy call on President Uhuru Kenyatta tomorrow at State House, Mombasa. Detectives from the DCI are investigating the murder of a 26-year-old man who was found dead in a lodging in Mlolongo, Machakos County. Clinton Wanakacha's lifeless body was found sprawled on the bed in Mia Thethia's guest house. An employee working at the guest house told detectives that the deceased had booked into the room accompanied by a yet-to-be-identified woman. 2 used condoms were recovered as detectives combed through the room for clues that would help in identifying the suspect behind the murder. Meanwhile, the deceased's body has been moved to the city mortuary as investigations into the murder continue. A police officer based at Muthui police station in Murang'a County has been arrested on suspicion of having defiled a minor. According to a police report, the officer, Letingiz Lentirangoi, is suspected to have defiled the minor who had been placed in police custody. The report said the minor, who is 15 years old, was remanded at Muthui police station after appearance at Kisumu Law Courts on 31st December 2021, and while in custody, a police officer on duty at the report office took her to an adjacent office and forcefully had carnal knowledge of her. The minor then reported the incident to the OCS, who ordered that she be taken to hospital for treatment and a P3 form be filled by a doctor at Kisumu Hospital. Investigations have positively identified the suspected police officer, and he is in custody awaiting arraignment. The government says it will not dictate to school heads on the modalities to employ when asking for fees from parents. Nyeri County Director of Education Sabina Aroni says instead, school authorities will have to negotiate with individual parents on the criteria which they intend to use in settling their fee balances without hampering the running of essential services in school. Aroni noted that despite the recent announcement by the Education CS Professor George Magoha advising schools against turning away students due to lack of fees, such an arrangement can only be carried out after a candid discussion by those involved, adding that funds remain key in the day-to-day running of learning institutions. Now, the government has initiated the process of revoking a title deed irregularly issued to a private investor for a 2,000-acre parcel of land set aside for conservation activities at Lake Chala in Taveta sub-county. The community living around the cross-border lake had set aside the land for conservation in 2013, where eco-friendly activities like tree planting, beekeeping, canoeing and fishing were done. Taveta Deputy County Commissioner Joseph Mericho said the government had rapidly moved in to recall the title deed issued to ensure the land was reserved for the activities it was set aside for. He explained land was to be registered as Chala Conservancy but ended up being registered as a limited company. Through the dodgy registration process, the land parcel had been converted from a public property for the community into a privately owned asset. Now, the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers is calling on the government to consider annual employment of healthcare workers to bridge the existing human resource gap in the country. KUCO Chairperson Peter Washira called on the national and county governments to hold discussions and come up with a uniform and harmonized management system for human resources, as well as conversion of all contractual employment terms to permanent and pensionable. He called on the national government to shift focus to strengthening primary health facilities in the country in an effort to reach more Kenyans with services. Washira said the entry of COVID-19 has exposed the fragile health system in the country and has led to loss of lives, including those of healthcare workers in the past 2 years. and preparations to host the World Athletics Cross-Country Tour at Lobo Village in Uasin Gishu County are in top gear. The 12th round of the gold-level cross-country meeting is set to be held on the 12th of February in Eldoret. Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed said the tour, which forms part of the 15 legs of the newly introduced cross-country series, affirms Kenya's standing on the world athletics. The tour is named Agnes Jebet Tirop Memorial Cross Country to commemorate the late former world cross-country champion Agnes Tirop, who was murdered in her house in Iten Elgeyo Marakwet County on October last year. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
All right, let's look at Mombasa Road, where we're coming from the Weighbridge, just beyond Sabaki, and then out towards the SGR. There's slow-moving traffic there, coming in little doses. And then we're looking at the southern bypass as you try to then connect with the Langata Road. There's moving really slowly as well. And we're looking at some inbound traffic. Langata Road ebbing and flowing here and there, not too bad this morning. Uhuru Highway, however, as you then go and try to connect with the unending traffic on Haile Selassie this morning, very slow. We're also looking at bumper-to-bumper traffic on Landis, and that's coming off of Jogo Road right now. The eastern part of the city looks like quite a lot of traffic. And on the Thika Superhighway, Kiambu Road has done its thing. Happy New Year from Kiambu Road, because that traffic has started late, but it is there in fine form this morning. Waiyaki Way also looks like a mess, and we're looking at that whole Ring Road, Westlands Avenue, Sports Road, Ojiji Road, Raptor Road. Traffic on the inner parts of Westlands today. Make your escape through the Red Hill Link Road this morning. Limuru Road, looking at other parts of the city coming into Parklands, 4th Parklands Avenue, 3rd Parklands Avenue, 2nd, 1st, Wambugu Road. Absolute mess there this morning, guys. And traffic has started in earnest. Let's look at it in a short while. Tell us what you see. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127. As much as we can, let's keep things moving.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It's 8 minutes after
the
8.
only
This
way
is
to
Kenya's
start your
biggest
day.
conversation, the Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning on Spice FM around the country. Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or wherever you are in the world, Spice FM is live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. For the next 1 hour, we are also live on KTN Home. Good morning to everybody who's joining us. C.T. Muga, our colleague, is away for an extra couple of days. It's Ndu Okoh and Eric Latiff, and I have the day's proverb. It's a Somali proverb. Don't set out on a journey using someone else's donkey. Don't set out on a journey using someone else's donkey. Kama huna punda, kaa kwako.
Walk.
A walk. Yeah. Well, now we are basically assuming you also don't have camels, you don't have anything else. But yeah. Stay at home. But basically, plan your journey well. If you don't have yours and you need to use somebody else's, approach them properly.
Ask nicely.
Ask nicely for it. Okay, so there's a conversation that has been taking place in the last couple of hours And this is with regards to how much we ate during Christmas. So it starts with a local fast food chain that sends out a message on social media. Hey, you guys, you patronized our facilities so much, and we thank you very much. Now, unfortunately, we have had a slight issue. And this is, we've run out of a key component of one of the things that we sell, which is potatoes. Now, don't worry, we also still have other things that you can still consume when you come to us. Of course, people started asking, what do you mean? You've run out of potatoes. How?
In Kenya.
We have just come from Shags and we have bags of potatoes. We can even donate. Other chains started coming out and saying, oh, no, we have potatoes. We buy local. So conversation starts shifting. Do these ones buy local or do they not buy local? So it goes on into, do we get our potatoes? The potatoes, are we eating potatoes that have been grown in the Nile Delta, or are we eating potatoes that have been grown here, homegrown, in Kinangop? Go to Engineer, Jafine, Kenagof.
And you will get.
And you'll get. In El Bagon or Ufaga, you'll get warus. What's the problem? Of course, it goes further because now more people are coming in and talking about what are the issues. So let's address those issues. Let's unpack what's happening. Somebody who has many years' experience running restaurants and in the food industry in the country, and is also currently the chairman of the Retail Trade Association of Kenya, RITRAC, Leonard Mudachi, joins us in the Situation Room. Good morning, Leonard.
Good morning, Eric.
Good to have you in the studio this time. The last time we spoke was virtually, of course, because height of COVID restrictions.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana.
Yeah.
So you've been in this industry for a while.
Yes.
Just give us that background of what you've done so that everybody hears. When they hear Leonard talking, they know, okay, so he knows what he's talking about.
Okay, I've been in the restaurant industry, actually. I'm a hospitality management trained individual. And I've been in the industry, but my focus has been on the food and beverage side of the industry, specifically the restaurant space. And I've been working in the restaurant space locally for slightly over 20 years now. Yeah, so that's my time with a wide variety of brands, local brands in the market, and that is what I do. So at heart, I'm the chairman of RITRAC, but professionally, I'm a restaurant operator.
When you talk about a restaurant,
yes,
right? So what are those basics that a restaurant needs to have? When you're talking about, okay, we are opening our doors this morning and we are going to serve customers, what are those things that you need to have?
Other than, of course, the obvious that you're serving a certain kind of cuisine or a certain kind of drink or a combination of both. We have seen, of course, a radical shift last year because pre-COVID, the fundamentals of the restaurant industry were location. So we all were looking for the best locations in relation to what we offer. And locations is based on proximity to your customers or access to those customers. And but the pandemic threw that out because we now saw an upsurge of delivery and takeaway as a form of business, which was a smaller component in the past. And location was the crucial thing. Now we are seeing, it hasn't settled completely, but we are seeing what is the new, I guess, post-COVID restaurant going to look like. And it's a hybrid of both physical locations because people have started coming back out. So they are close to the customers. And of course, the delivery and takeaway has become a much bigger component of the business than it was in the past.
Yeah.
Over and above that, you have then your supply chain, which I think is going to be a key topic for today.
Yep.
Because what you're talking about is, are you able to get your product in the, I call it the trifecta. So there are three things: consistency of quality, quantity, and price. Because restaurants are fundamentally for-profit businesses. And those three things are what will affect how you get the product to the plate of the customer. Quality, you want a quality because you're building a brand, and so you want a certain standard in that quality. You want quantity. I have a running joke with my friends who I call them fly-by-night farmers. And they grow tomatoes, and they call me, hey, Leonard, I have 2 tons of tomatoes. And like, okay, if I take your 2 tons, will you have it next week? Because I just don't need them now. I need them every day, 365 days a year, because most restaurants are opened every day. So those 3 things, quality, quantity, and price, because fundamentally price. Most restaurants don't have the luxury of shifting their prices when they don't have the luxury of shifting their menu prices at a whim. You either their printing costs of whether it's physical menus or in-house boards that display the pricing. So you want to have a relatively consistent price from your supplier. Because if the price is oscillating up and down, you don't have the luxury to pass that on to your customers at any given time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's now talk about then the issue at hand here, and this is about KFC. We reached out to the CEO of KFC locally, and he sent you the statement that they have. You're going to read that statement?
I'll read the statement. I mean, he graciously turned down the invitation to discuss some of these issues with us. But what he did say in terms of the statement that they sent out to Kenya is, we work with a number of local Kenyan suppliers to serve our customers locally sourced produce and ingredients in our restaurants. These currently include core items, including our poultry, fresh vegetables, bread buns, packaging, flour, and ice cream, to name a few. Although we currently import our French fries, there's an opportunity to source the potatoes from a local supplier that meets the global KFC quality and safety specifications in the near future. Our customers can be assured that we will continue to serve them the same great tasting products that they have come to love every time. So that was obviously, and this was quite emotive yesterday as we saw this across board, because Kenyans do believe, that you're going to have a chain that's resident here, that you should then be able to source product locally. So if we jump into this conversation, Leonard, I'm asking the question, before anybody sets up shop here, is there the mindset that the things that you're going to serve in terms of raw material, is the option of sourcing them locally the first option that is considered?
I think credit to Jacques, who is a member of KFC, are a member, or the local franchisee of KFC, are a member of Retrack. And credit to him by saying that they do source a large portion, because KFC is fundamentally a chicken brand. And chicken is the bulk of what they sell, along with a lot of other items. And they do source a lot of that locally. Now, the challenge that a global brand has, as opposed to maybe a local brand, is conformity is required on a global scale, not on a local one. The expectation of a KFC customer, should he be coming in from New York and having a French fry, is that it tastes the same in New York as it does, because what he's walking into is the familiarity of the brand. So there's that challenge. I recall way back in my college days, we read a case study of a 2-year delay in opening the Moscow McDonald's when the Soviet Union opened up, and McDonald's then went into the Soviet Union. They delayed the opening by 2 years so that they could upgrade the farmers to grow the right potato that McDonald's wanted. So that's the levels that they will go to in the supply chain. So yes, I feel for them, because you don't want any brand to be bashed. Fundamentally, they are trading in Kenya. They do work with Kenyans. They hire Kenyans. They have built and made a financial investment in Kenya. So they have taken quite a bit of a beating on the streets of Twitter and the like. But maybe we should take a step back and question, what is it? And they rightly say that there is an opportunity to source local. So I think commercially, for the people who are in the potato processing space, there are quite a few of them locally. There is an opportunity to engage with KFC and interact to a level where you can meet those global standards and deliver a product that they want.
Leonard, I think there's something that's not being said.
Yes.
And it might be difficult to hear, especially on the side of people who have, sent out this vitriol, etc., etc. Is there a problem with the locally available sources.
Okay.
In terms of longevity of supply, in terms of consistency of supply, is there a problem in the local market, whether it is potatoes, whether it is whatever it is? Is there a problem here? Are we not able to meet the need?
On a general scale, and if I speaking as a Kenyan, we have seen a lot more importation of foods. We have in the restaurant industry, because we source in larger quantities than, let's say, a household, do see, have a front row seat in how much we are importing nowadays. And the truth is, we are importing a lot more foodstuffs generally, not just potatoes, than we have been in the past. We import eggs, we import onions, we import butter, we import milk, we import cheese. We import a lot of things that historically we would produce locally. So is there an something that needs to be addressed? Yes, there is. It's a combination. It's a conversation that needs to take place between a combination of players. There needs to be an active conversation between the farmers, the
What is
policy
the issue
makers.
then? Why are we seeing more and more importation of these basics? Onions, potatoes, tomatoes, eggs.
Yes.
Why?
The issue fundamentally, if we are to drill down to it, I think you'll come down to a leadership issue, So and leadership is a blend of things. I don't think we can distill it into one specific issue. But the reality is, our population has grown, our consumption has grown, and our output has not grown to match that, whether it's the reduction in the availability of agricultural extension officers in a local context, or the from the real estate side, we have seen a lot of prime agricultural real estate convert to residential and commercial real estate around particularly the outskirts of Nairobi, or if it's the failure to adopt modern emerging techniques in farming that will allow us to keep up with our growing population and growing demand.
So how is it manifesting? Are we saying, because there's something that you said, that a restaurant will look for consistency in quality, quantity, price.
Yes.
Are you saying that we are not able to do that? We are not able to guarantee a consistency in supply of quality and quantity produce?
I'm saying that it is possible to land some products into the local market, even after paying import duties, cheaper than it is to produce them locally. Fundamentally, that's what I'm saying. And that, if you take out your nationalistic hat, and you're looking purely on commercial terms, will be attractive to some investors because he wants to make a return on his investment.
Yeah.
So you have seen on our supermarket shelves, in our vegetable stores, a lot more imported produce than we used to have in the past. And if I can land cooking oil or other products cheaper than I can produce them locally for a wide variety of reasons, be it the cost of power in the production cycle, be it the cost of inputs. Inputs is a big one, particularly when you start talking animal husbandry, when you talk about animal feeds and so on. Those collective issues all contribute to making some of the products that we use. And that's why I go back to saying that this is not an issue to be addressed by one person. You can't throw the ball on the table of one person. That discussion needs to take place between the policy makers, which would be our government bodies, both at ministerial level and the supporting entities, the farmers themselves, us as consumers, restaurant operators or supermarkets and the like, and to have a complete conversation around what would it take for us to have policies that are friendly towards us ensuring that we want to feed ourselves. I think an expectation to feed yourselves as a nation should be the very basic of what we should be able to do.
It's even that's a national conversation. And as you know, the Big Four agenda, one of it is food security. And food security and what it entails, therefore, has been mainstreamed as a conversation.
Yes.
But we are still talking about cost of production being much higher in this country than in our neighboring countries, in Tanzania, Uganda, for instance, or even as far as Egypt, where cost of production and cost of transportation will still end up being cheaper than the cost of producing warus in Kinangop.
Yes.
So it goes beyond then just the cost of inputs. What are these things that are making our costs so much higher? Are these things that are impacting the quality of what we're producing? The quality of the potato that's being grown in Kinangop or in Bomet or in Elbagon. What is it that's impacting?
You've thrown me a bit into an area that is not really my area of expertise, but I'll take a stab at it nonetheless. In my restaurant experience, I deal with potatoes, for example, like what we're discussing today, chips quite a lot. So what's the journey of potatoes from the seed all the way to the plate of the customer who's having the chips? First of all farming, whether it's animal husbandry or plantation farming, is about yield. You want to increase yield and ensure a certain standard of quality. So, seed certification. You want your farmers to plant a certain seed of a certain quality. If you're to talk to KFC about what standards of potatoes they are looking for, they will tell you about, we want a certain variety at a certain standard with a certain water content of the final potato that we receive, and so on, so forth, delivered to us in a certain way, whether it's cut and frozen as chips and so on, and we'll then proceed from there. So you start with a certified seed. So let's start with the fundamental question. How many potato farmers in the potato growing regions are growing potatoes with certified seed? Because when you start there, you can then graduate this discussion up and move to a conversation around, okay, if all our potatoes in this given area are growing certified seed, and we have had the conversation with the off-takers, so we appreciate the demand that is required of this type of potato. Then we know that X potatoes certified with the right rainfall patterns or irrigation will give us a yield of Y, and as a result, we will be able to service this demand. Now, if you are not starting with a certified seed conversation, then basically you're doing Bati Nasibu. I will try, and
we'll see.
And I'll see if we get where it lands. And
I hear what you're saying. Then I think it then starts from both sides of the value chain.
Yes.
And if it's demand driven, then it can develop. I mean, we are talking about the same country that is leading in production of coffee and exporting coffee, tea, floriculture. Our horticulture is doing very well in the export market.
Yes.
Because those markets have come up with a standard and said this is what we require, for example, for our French beans.
Yes.
And you go to farmers in Kerogoya, in Kirinyaga County, and farmers in Kirinyaga County know this is what the market expects, and this is what we need to produce.
Yes.
They made a couple of mistakes here and there, ignoring issues of residue, minimum residue. They were slapped with a ban, and they learnt their lesson. Nowadays, farmers in Kirinyaga County are growing French beans, exporting.
There are many examples.
If the local restaurants and supermarkets are not setting the standard, how will the farmer then react? What will the farmer be responding to, if not the market?
So, I keep going back to the fact that this cannot be a conversation independent of all parties. So yes, you have the off-taker on this side, be it a restaurant or a supermarket. You have the farmer on this side. In between there, there's policy. First of all, not all farmers are equal. Yeah, you have different in Kenya particularly. You have smallholder farmers, you have medium-sized farmers, and then you have large farmers. Yeah, a conversation with a large farmer on X 100 acres might be easier because it's a one-stop shop. You'll discuss the standards, he'll get them, and he'll guarantee a return. Now, a conversation with a smallholder farmer in other sectors, is maybe a bit more complicated. There are smaller parcels of land. They are more in terms of numbers. They need to be a delivery. There needs to be a deliberate effort to train and to communicate this information. Yeah. For example, if I was to go to, you've used Kinangop. I don't know if Eric is from Kinangop because he's used it quite a bit.
Yeah, we know Kinangop and potato.
But if we are to go to Kinangop and find farmer X who's on 2 acres, does he understand what the standard is? I don't know. But that's a question for a policy maker and for an agricultural extension officer somewhere in Kinangop, who's able to distill this information and give it to a customer. Because fundamentally, what do you want? You want a successful farmer. And I think it's also important to say that any local player, be it a restaurant or a supermarket, is a reluctant importer.
From the get-go?
From the get-go. I would not import something that I don't have to import. The 3 things that I mentioned, quality, quantity, price, are one of those 2 things or a combination of 2 or all 3 of them are the ones which will lead me to import. If I can find a local product that is available at the right quality, in the right quantity, at the right price, why would I import? Why would I put myself through the hassle of going to the port to clear a frozen container?
So then that's the uncomfortable status of things then.
Yes.
That they are not locally available, quantity, quality, and price. And that's the reason why the exports are big, and that's the issue.
It's always going to be one of those 3 things.
Let's take a break. We come back and continue this conversation with Leonard Budachi. He's the chairman of the Retail Trade Association of Kenya. He's a seasoned restaurant and hotel, what is it? Hospitality.
Not hospital.
Not hospital. Hospitality manager. He's with us. We are talking about the potato chip supply chain, and not just the potato chips, but just looking at the supply chain, especially for restaurants and supermarkets in the retail end. What are the issues that we are facing, they're facing in the industry, and what are the issues that farmers are facing? Keep it right here. We are live streaming the show online, and we're also live on SpiceFM and KTN Home. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kano, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, cloudy conditions this Nairobi morning. Highs of 25 and lows of 15. It's mostly sunny in Nakuru. Highs of 27 and lows of 14 is what we will see today. Nyeri town is mostly sunny at 14, highs of 25. And Eldoret, sunny at 15, highs of 25 and lows of 12. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions at 27 in Mombasa, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Malindi is going to be sunny today. It'll go to highs of 31. Partly sunny conditions in Kisumu, highs of 29. 29 will also be the high in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 22. Kampala is sunny this morning at 19, highs of 28 and lows of 17, while mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 27, with highs of 32 and lows of 26. Johannesburg is sunny at 18, highs of 28 today, and Lagos still a foggy morning at 24, highs of 33 and lows of 23. Kinshasa is cloudy at 24, we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 23. Still looking at slow movement on Mombasa Road this morning in an outbound from Mombasa Road out towards the Way Bridge, just past the Way Bridge, going towards the SGR, out towards Imaradaima. And so then that all comes to a head right around General Motors, but then you should be fine. As you go towards the Uhuru Highway, then you're going to get stuck at those roundabouts there. Lusaka, then going towards Nyayo Stadium, out towards the cities, going all the way, snaking slowly through to Westlands. Kamkunji started very early. That still continues. Jogo Road, then onto Landis, and then out towards Haile Selassie Avenue today, really slow. Let's take a look at what's happening on Thika Superhighway. Getting a little bit better now, going towards the Pangani Underpass. And then also Kiambu Road did magic, and less traffic there now, bumper to bumper in just some parts, just past the DCI headquarters. That whole Parklands area continues. Limuru Road now, outbound traffic is what seems to be the issue. A little bit of inbound right around City Park. See what it looks like in a short while. Talk to us, guys, on SpiceFM. KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM. Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, and our guest Leonard Mudachi, Chairman, Retail Trade Association of Kenya. We are talking about the potato chip supply chain. Leonard, you said, yes, there are many players, and key is the policymaker as well. But I still want to go back to the market. The farmer, the producer, and the off-taker. And this is you on the other end. Now, have we seen, for example, RITRAC organizing, let's say restaurants coming together and saying, this is the quality that we want from our farmers? We have seen various farmers coming from these other parts of the country and saying we'd like to supply, and we have noticed that this is the challenge that you have. And we'd like you to work towards meeting this quality. And this is a minimum quantity that we require as an industry in the country. So if you can meet quality, quantity, and we discuss price, would be good to go. Do we see those conversations? And I'm going back to the example that I was giving. This is the same country that is among the biggest producers of flowers in the world, among the biggest exporters of avocado in the world. Same country, you're saying we are not able to supply our local market with potatoes because of our quality and quantity.
I think just a point of clarification, yeah. We have a large, vibrant restaurant space. In fact, in the last 20 years in Kenya, the restaurant space has really emerged and come into its own. Yeah, and a large proportion of our membership, in the restaurant space do source chips, specifically potatoes for chips locally. Yeah. As you again, there was a bit of back and forth between. As is the case nowadays in social media, where quite a few of them jumped on social media yesterday and said, we do local and we do local and we do local. So there is an existing supply chain of chips locally. Okay. Yeah. The question that you have asked is specific to specific brands. So that conversation takes place, but it takes place on a brand-to-brand basis. And what is the thinking behind that? Different brands have different standards. There's a brand that has said, I'm not going to serve frozen chips for whether it's internal systems and processes reasons or whatever reasons they have, whether it's global brand standards. I am a fresh chips brand. Yeah? The customer is not privy to this information. He just knows that he has a product that he likes and he eats it. Yeah, so you do have quite a few brands that don't do frozen chips, as is the case with a whole host of other industries where you can choose the inputs that you want as long as you produce a product that the customer is ready to consume. So it's not like Kenyan restaurants do not buy Kenyan potatoes, not at all. Yeah, there is a vibrant market. Yeah, but it could be better from the perspective of that full circle conversation we're talking about between the businesses, the policymakers, and the farmers to improve the supply chain. So ultimately, I as a Kenyan would love a state where we are saying 100% of what we sell in our restaurant is sourced locally, because that is a stronger economy. And ultimately, those are more consumers for me if more people have money in their pockets.
Who ought to kickstart this conversation? Because I think you've mentioned it a couple of times here, that it's got to be a conversation amongst policymakers, practitioners, farmers, everybody involved in this process, in this chain. Who ought to kickstart it? Because by the time X brand is coming into the country, they've received approvals from the same government.
Yes.
People have heard the chatter before they actually land here that they are coming in, right? So people have this information. They've sought approvals, they've sought licenses, 1, 2, 3, they've done the whole HR process. They're hiring Kenyans to do this work, right? So in other countries, we know for a fact that by the time they're having this conversation, the conversation about locally sourced product is actually being had at the time that they're acquiring said licenses. It happens. True. Because they realize that they also have a duty to protect their farmers.
Yes.
They have a duty to create an environment that will allow them, the farmers, to do business as government. So what stops this conversation from being had at the time when you're approving licensure, for example, for them to come into the country?
It should be. It should be had at that point. So fundamentally, the answer to your question is it's a policymakers. Because KFC or Kuku Foods, who's the local franchisee of KFC, is a legal entity in Kenya. They are compliant. They have the necessary trade and regulatory licenses at all the outlets to trade in the country. So, and they have invested. They are an investor in the country. Yeah. So that conversation should take place locally. If I was to equate it to the conversation around, let's say, work permits. Yeah. If you have applied for a work permit for a foreigner in Kenya, there is a clause that says, how long is this foreigner required in this job? Who is shadowing him in this role so that you're building local capacity? And how long do you require him for? Yeah. And at that point, you say, I need this person for 2 years or 3 years. And I feel by that time, I'll have built sufficient local capacity for this job to be taken over by a local, if that local expertise doesn't. Could that be something that we have a conversation around in the supply chain? So you want to invest now, yeah, and you feel that there are some products that are not available locally in the three things, in the quality, quantity, and price that you want. But can the policy makers embed in that initial licensing discussion a conversation around, we'll allow you to start, yeah, but we also want you to work with Ministry X and Body X such that in 3 years of your trading, you are sourcing and supplying. I think that's a worthy conversation to have.
Eric has given the example of avocado. This avocado conversation is still pretty new as what we see. And then there was the option of coming out of the Netherlands. All right, we're not getting enough in terms of our supply. So this is what we require. 1, 2, 3. We didn't have as many avocado farmers. But then what did local county governments do? Come together and they said, all right, this is what they require. This is how we can go ahead and do it. Can we put people together? And quicker than you can say Jack Robinson, there were farmers on the ground who came together and they started growing avocado and they're now exporting. So we're not saying it is not something that cannot be done. It can be done, and I think that has been proven with very many examples. But then the kickstart then seems to be the issue.
I think I'd like us to take a step back and I'd like to argue a case for local consumption. I think as Kenyans, we tend to bend over backwards whenever we identify an export market. Yeah. And that conversation needs to be balanced with a conversation around local consumption. Yeah. Because there is a case, to consume local. Maybe it's the chase for forex, that I'm selling those avocados in dollars or euros, and so I'm quick to build the ecosystem and my return on investment can be greater. But I have seen in my career a strong case for local better planning around local consumption. And there's no harm. It's very beneficial to the local consumer for us to adopt our own standards. We have a local standard, but we should continue improving on that standards. One thing about health standards is they're never consistent. They keep on being reviewed because there are always discoveries either of new methods of keeping food safe, and that needs to be a continuous conversation. So if we were to have this conversation from a local consumption perspective, I have no doubt in my mind that it's an issue that we can adequately address.
Do we actually even deal with it? Look, for example, we were recently treated to some drama between Kenya and Uganda about importation of eggs.
Yes.
So it plays out in the public as trade wars between Kenya and Uganda. Does that conversation even go down to, so why are Kenyan traders choosing to import? Why are Kenyan consumers going for this particular product from this country? Is it an issue with our value chain? Is it an issue with our farmers accessing seeds and other inputs? Do we have a problem? Do we see that conversation taking place in earnest? Because I know the conversations take place. If you go to Kilimo House on any given day, you will find experts there who have written papers that have been used by other countries. You go to Calro, they have all these, we're talking about certified seeds. They have seeds that can grow. This village can have a different seed from that next village because of the work that Calro has done countrywide. But does that then get down into what the researchers are doing, what the directors of the Ministry of Agriculture are doing versus what the national government is doing at that policy level and National Assembly level? Do you hear those conversations at RETRAC?
I think that's an area for improvement. You have touched on eggs, and in its very basic form, any form of animal farming is fundamentally your end cost to your off-taker is going to be based on the cost of your inputs. Yeah, so whether it's milk, eggs, or beef, lamb, goat, fundamentally, the cost of your inputs and largely feeds, and of course veterinary services and others, will lead to the final cost. And admittedly, at the moment, Uganda has a lower cost of feeds than Kenya. Fact. Yeah, and that is why they are able to produce. These eggs from Uganda are not coming into a vacuum. They are coming because there's demand.
Yes.
There's no one who's going to bring eggs into the country on the hope that they'll be taken. They are going to come into the country because someone is willing to pay the price that they come at. Yeah, and yesterday, as this debate was raging around chips, a question was asked about your personal household, which I'd like to pose to you. I am ready to change. Are you ready to change everything that you consume into our house to local if I give you a 20% hike in your monthly shopping bill?
Yes.
So you're willing to pay 20% more for a potato because it's Kenyan?
Just because it's Kenyan? No, I thought you were saying that you're giving me more.
No. So that's the question. So, and hence, I go back to, yes, there are many players in this. This is a conversation among many people, but fundamental, it starts with the government and the policy that enable us to bring our cost of inputs lower and make us more competitive, even for ourselves.
It's interesting how these conversations just seem to marry into one another. Yesterday, we had a conversation about, civic duty and civic responsibility. Then when it comes to pushing government. So coming on the other side of it, it could be that there's a whole mishmash of issues that government deals with on a daily basis. And maybe, all right, that this is not front and center in terms of priority until you see that farmers, practitioners could actually benefit if you gave it some attention. So would it be difficult on the other side of things, leaving policymakers, even if we have said that they are the ones who ought to kickstart the conversation, but we see that there's a loss happening here. Potential business is being lost on the side of farmers, other practitioners. Could they be the ones who kicked off the conversation in the interim, applied some pressure to say, can we do something about this to change the way in which we operate so that we can get into a place where businesses, the environment is conducive and we benefit as farmers?
No, not only could the answer to your question is yes, they could, and yes, they are. Yeah, because there's a whole host of bodies. Yeah, this conversation was vibrant in quite a few forums, including different BMOs and lobby groups that are taking it quite seriously. Rightly so, because like you rightly say, it is a business opportunity for Kenyans and for the Kenyan economy that has been lost to imports, and were it to be addressed, the upside could be Kenyans, could be Kenyans. And so yes, it should happen. It is happening, but ultimately responsibility has to be given to the one who has the greatest authority for that change. Yeah, and it is the national government.
I hear everything that you've been saying. Basically, you've just been saying leadership. Yeah. With right leadership, you'd have the right focus. The right focus would address some of these issues. Looking at, okay, so what are we producing? Are we able to produce it more affordably? So that we stop having to import. It's about leadership. Somebody else who also was participating in that conversation on social media yesterday is Kadhambi Karia, and she also gave her own experience with imagining that she could supply potatoes to a big restaurant chain and choke on her. And she joins us now on the line. She's just on the line. Kadhambi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us in the Situation Room.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So you went on Twitter yesterday and you gave your own experience in trying to imagine that you could meet the demand in terms of quality and consistency of quantities to a local chain. Just take us through your own experience as you try to work on that, and then also working on the other requirements that were placed by the restaurant chain.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, let me say this was way back in 2011. So obviously, time has passed, and technology has improved. But fundamentally, the issues that were raised then and that continue to be raised in regards to sort of our agricultural sector participating on a global platform are still very relevant, right? So when we talk about standardization and quality control and, the ability of, say, multinationals to sort of track produce, when you put all these requirements together and think about what kind of farmer would be able to meet those standards and to also meet sort of the quality and the quantity and steady supply that, institutions and companies like KFC require, you sort of knock out a good chunk of smallholder farmers, right? Because how many farmers would be able to supply the quantities reliably over time to a KFC, for example? And so when we talk about government being a very central cog in that wheel, we are talking about, sort of government stepping in, thinking about the regulatory environment, helping farmers sort of get ahead on many of the standardization issues, for example, the seeds they grow, the pesticides they use, because these are all the elements that these people are looking at when they think about the phytosanitary requirements. They want to know what seed was planted, how it was grown, what pesticides or herbicides were used in this crop. And the other angle to that is the logistics part of it. Part of also tracking and tracing a product begins with, how it moves from the farm, where it's stored, how it's transported, and so on. And now if you look at our infrastructure, for example, at what price do you reckon a farmer would produce the crop, store it in,
cold chain
storage and cold chain, given even the energy sector challenges, and still be able to compete with the Egypt price, for example, by the time it gets to KFC. So all of these things, you cannot look at the chain in isolation. You have to look at the supply chain and sort of plug solutions throughout the value chain. Because this idea that, farmers can wake up one day in Kenya and just supply to a multinational that has had standards in place and requirements in place for years and decades, without the government being central to that effort, I think is a bit of a pipe dream.
It's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Kathambi, thank you very much for joining us. I mean, you've just said the same thing that Leonard has just been talking about. It's about the government doing what government ought to do, which is coming in to support the farmer. We have all these extension services. Are the extension services actually working? Do we need to see a vibrancy in the agricultural extension services sector? Do we need to see more and more support for the local farmer? We want to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home, who've been with us since the top of the hour. It's now 4 minutes to 9. With us in the studio is Leonard Mudachi, Chairman, Retail Trade Association of Kenya. We've all just been having a conversation with Kathambi Karia, who is I Am Kathambi on Twitter, who is also very, very active on matters of environment and conservation and farming and supporting just local industry. Asante sana for joining us. The conversations continue on SpiceFM, and that is 94.4 in Nairobi, or Mombasa, it's 87.9, 102.5, Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, and 97.7 in Malindi. Or you can switch over to our live stream on YouTube or Facebook, SpiceFM KE.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani from Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
All right, it's 2 minutes to 9.
The situation
continues as we wind up our conversation here with Leonard. The issue that Kathambi brought up there, which is traceability. How big is it?
It's huge. Because as we continue to, the backbone of standardization of any market is traceability. You want to standardize. A restaurant chain that I worked for in the past went through an ISO 22000 food safety standard exercise to seek the certification. And a lot of change had to come from traceability. Because when you're buying your tomatoes, for example, and your tomatoes are from a middleman who has gone to Markiti in the morning and found you whatever you require and brought it to you to the spec that Can you tell me where it's from?
You have no
You
clue.
can't. So that's why the conversation is a bigger conversation than just say local or imported. We need to set up the systems and infrastructure that we require, including those standardization processes, to enable us to tap into these opportunities.
And then I think you have your work cut out at Retrack.
Yes, we do.
In terms of standardization, even coming up with a standard marks of quality for various produce and knowing this is fresh, this has come from various. We certify here that if you go to a supermarket and you find this particular one, it bears a certain standard mark of quality. You can know for sure.
We have started on that. We started with the meat component, and I'm sure it will graduate to other products as we move along.
Leonard, thank you very much for joining us. Come again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Leonard Mudachi is a chairman of the Retail Trade Association of Kenya, and he's also a seasoned restaurateur. What is this? Hospitality?
Hospitality professional is good enough.
He's in the hospitality sector, not with the hospitals.
No.
Keep it right here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. A very good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Members of Parliament will today continue debating the Political Parties Amendment Bill of 2021 in a 3-day special sitting as convened by National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui. Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, who is the sponsor of the bill, says he has marshalled enough members to ensure that the amendments are dispensed with and the bill forwarded to Senate for concurrence. He said that they are pushing to have the bill ready for assent by President Uhuru Kenyatta by the end of January, despite the filibustering witnessed in the last 2 special sittings last week. These SNPs loyal to Deputy President William Ruto have promised to ensure that their amendments in the political parties bill sail through, insisting that they have numbers to carry the day. Garissa Town MP Eden Duale says that they have lined up to 50 new amendments in what is seen as the grand scheme to delay the passage of the bill. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is tomorrow expected to inspect the construction of the new Kipevu oil terminal at the port of Mombasa. Uhuru will be accompanied by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to inspect the project. The construction, which cost the Kenya Ports Authority 40 billion shillings, is being implemented by the China Communication Construction Company. Police are searching for 6 suspects accused of promoting drug trafficking in Murang'a County. The 6 are believed to be collaborating with the suspect whose home was raided yesterday by police officers in Murang'a South area. During the operation, police managed to seize 25 bags of marijuana, 4 kilograms of cannabis seeds, among other drugs. According to Murang'a Police Commander Alex Shikonde, the 6 have been working with the owner of the house where the drugs were found. National Potato Council of Kenya CEO Wachira Kagwongo has urged Kentucky Fried Chicken Company to work with them so that they can stop importing potatoes. Kagwongo says Kenya produces 62 varieties of potatoes and with proper planning they can meet the company's demands. KFC had urged Kenyans to order swap options for combo meals after they ran out of imported fries. This, however, caused uproar with Kenyans on Twitter bashing KFC for importing potatoes instead of supporting local farmers.
With a proper arrangement, proper planning, all kinds of varieties can be introduced to the country, and we are willing to support them to introduce the varieties they want and also support farmers to produce those varieties, because first, importation is quite expensive and also the country is losing foreign currency, and therefore I would encourage them to work with us and local industry so that our farmers can supply to them what they want. With support, Kenya is known to produce good quality produce.
KFC has in the meanwhile since issued a statement saying that there could be an opportunity to source potatoes from local farmers should they meet its global standards. Now, COVID-19 vaccination during pregnancy was not associated with preterm delivery or underweight newborns in a study published by the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Rates of preterm birth were 4.9% among more than 10,000 women who received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, compared to 7% for roughly 36,000 unvaccinated women. The difference was not deemed to be statistically significant. The researchers found that COVID-19 vaccination did not increase the risk of delivering a baby who weighed less than usual for the number of weeks of pregnancy. Results from the study support the CDC's recommendations on the safety of COVID-19 vaccination during pregnancy. Still on COVID-19, and the Biden administration doubled its order for Pfizer oral COVID-19 antiviral treatment, providing the government a total of 20 million courses as it fights a record surge in COVID-19 cases. The White House now expects some 4 million treatment courses of the pills to be available by the end of January and 10 million by June, 3 months sooner than previously planned. Details of the expanded deal with Pfizer's largest yet for the pill were not disclosed by the company. For the first order of 10 million courses in November, the US government had said it would pay Pfizer $5.29 billion. Back home, we continue to urge you to go get tested, go get vaccinated against COVID-19 so that you may protect yourself and those that you love. And as many as 23 people have been killed in clashes between rival guerrilla groups in Colombia's northern Arauca area. Colombia's ombudsman Carlos Camago said that fighting first erupted between the National Liberation Army, the largest leftist guerrilla group in the country, known by its special acronym ELN, and dissident factions of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Arceto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The question is, what is happening at that Utawala bypass? It is wahala. Everybody's complaining this morning. Not quite sure what has caused that holdup. If you have an idea, won't you let us know? Folks in and out. We're looking at that whole Utawala area going towards the eastern bypass, out towards Outer Ring. What happened while you were away? We're looking at also some traffic on the Thika Superhighway, but that has reduced quite some. We're looking at Jogo Road, still a thing. Mombasa Road going out towards the SGR, still a bit of a thing. Langata Road behaved very well today. 5 cheers for you. Uhuru Highway then going towards Haile Selassie Avenue. That has been a headache since morning. And in the CBD, thumping traffic, bumper to bumper on most parts today. And then that whole Pangani underpass area going out into the city. We're looking at Juja Road. Some traffic there. Limuru Road has been up and down and up and down. And one more time, up and down. Let us know what's happening in your neck of the woods, guys. Anybody who knows what's happening in Utawala, let us know. We can spread the word. And we're looking at that traffic continuing on Waiaki Way this morning. Not to forget, your escape route is the Link Road. Use those options this morning. Talk to us on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Let's text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 8:09.
The only
How are
way
you
to
doing?
start your
Thank you very
day.
much for keeping it locked on Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's Eric and Ndu CT away. I have the proverb. It's a Somali proverb. Don't set out on a journey using someone else's donkey. So that's straightforward. You get it?
Get it.
If you don't get it,
Use your own donkey.
Bas.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Machete says, on this story, I view from a business owner's point, quality really matters. KFC, for example, thrives on quality of food it provides. Unfortunately, potato farmers lack the set standards. If you eat chipo in town, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Tastes different.
Looks different.
Looks different.
Mm. You want it to look a certain way.
Black. So the issue, basically, if you look at it, the other day we were talking about eggs and that whole standoff between Kenya and Uganda over the blockage of imported eggs to the country. And Ugandans saying, you know what? We produce about 80% of what we produce in this country is basically exported to Kenya.
Sure.
Our eggs, 30% come from Uganda. Onions are coming from Tanzania. We have other produce that are coming from other parts of Africa and other parts of the world, all being imported, all right? Like Leonard was telling us, butter, cheese, imported. Why? One of the main reasons is because it costs, even after bringing it from that neighboring country, it's still cheaper than what your farmer and the local supply chain is selling it to you at. That means our cost of production is really, really high. You saw the other day the millers talking about raising issue. You saw the other day the people who make animal feeds also raising issue and saying, you know what, animal feeds are going to be more expensive because our basic inputs are even more expensive. In this country, we're not able to produce cotton seed cake or sunflower seed cake that goes with basic ingredients of animal feeds.
Whereas in Uganda, it grows like wild weeds.
They are able to produce it. They are able then to sell it to their food manufacturers. They have grain, they have maize, and they put it together, high quality feeds. In Kenya, high quality feeds, those are three separate words. Can't put them together.
Nope.
So what is it about our government then? Is our government supporting our farmers?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, you don't want to say really quickly, but that's the answer is no. That there's not adequate support to be able to make them. But even this coffee and tea that you talked about the other day, did we not have farmers who are uprooting coffee bushes?
Yep.
And they said, I'd rather build something here that will maybe I rent it out and it'll give me some money, because at the end of the day, I'm farming my coffee. It's going out into the international market and I'm making nothing. Government is buying it from me. The same government that should make it easier for me to be able to realize a profit. I can't send my children to school. I grow coffee for years. I can't send my children to school. Even when I do get that bulk check, it goes back into what I've spent in the first place to keep the bush alive. So then you have to ask yourself, is the support there? And unfortunately, the answer is no. And it's not that it doesn't, if it is there and it is inadequate, the answer is still no. And another very interesting thing is that the eggs coming from Uganda, the eggs are not coming into Uganda and floating somewhere in the atmosphere. They're being mopped up. So there's a demand for them. How do you see that there's a demand for a particular commodity? You have people who are producing it here. They're not able to make the demand. It comes in cheaper and it's still being taken up, and then you still don't do anything about the situation. Where is the protection for local business? Where is the protection for local farmers? On agriculture, which, by the way, if you remember, we are told every day like a church sermon that agriculture is the bedrock of what? The economy. But here we are, smallholder, medium, large farmers. How are they being supported? Whether you're looking at animal farming, whether you're looking at crop, whatever it is that you're looking at, can you really say, how do you think they feel? You spend years feeding an animal, and then feeding a bird, you spend 7 months feeding a bird, it finally starts to lay. Then you start to sell. Somebody else comes in and they're selling a crate of eggs at 300 shillings, and here you are. The least you can sell it at is 400 bob. and you are not able to find market for it? The answer is no. There is not enough support. The environment is not conducive for you to be able to be an agricultural practitioner in this country at the moment. That's the case. When milk was being brought in from Uganda, it was lapped up, no pun intended, but it was taken up really quickly. Eggs came in. Onions coming in from Tanzania, they're being taken up. So what are we saying? There's demand. There are farmers that are existent here in the Kenyan market. They're not being supported enough to be able to make their prices competitive on the market.
And so there are several things that are happening at the same time, because you'll also talk to the traders who cross over into Uganda to look for the eggs and other produce.
Yes, no.
Talk to the traders who cross over into Tanzania to look for onions, and they'll tell you, so the government is every day coming up with some more punitive measures and non-tariff barriers. So somebody, for example, who has a truck that's crossing over from Tanzania into Kenya with onions at Namanga, go and talk to them. They tell you, my God, it used to cost us, I think, was it less than 10,000 shillings per truck. Now they tripled that just one morning. It's now going to cost you 30,000
to
same
bring
truck
in a
to
load.
bring in. So you can say, oh, so the government is trying to discourage the importation of the onions. But is the government supporting the local farmer to grow the onions?
And truth be told, I don't have a problem with that tripling of the amount, so long as on this other side, you're making it easier for folks to grow it here.
Yep.
You cannot practice that kind of punitive measure if you're not creating an environment. You can't do that. You can't.
If you're not working on it here.
Don't allow them to bring it in because there's a demand on this side.
Irrigation scheme. There was an irrigation scheme in Baringo. What's it called? Something Takera. I don't remember my GHC well. John, you may remember. Onions would come from there. And parts of West Pokot. Are they coming from there anymore? No. Go to parts of Kajiado South, or Loitoktok, where onions and tomatoes would come from. Are farmers getting the support that they need? When we talk about all these things, we talk about, from farm, coming together, aggregation into cold chain, so there is storage at cooperative facilities. In Loitoktok, a place called Kimana, there's farmers that come together as a cooperative many years ago in the 80s. So growing onions, bring them together into a big bulk storage cooperative, so which is cooler and all, and it's helping the farmers. Orokisa Cooperative Society, there is like an office there. The huge store is now shops, I think.
Good Lord.
The whole support that the farmers would need. If we talk about what we are seeing in the export market, are we seeing aggregation of farmers into cooperatives in the export market? Yes, we are. Let's start with tea. There's a national aggregation. Smallholder farmers are all members, are all owners of KTD, of small factories. Those factories own KTDA jointly. So it's a whole, you can start from a smallholder farm and trace even tea.
Back to where it
Back to where
originated.
If you went to Kirinyaga, I gave you the example of Kirinyaga because I've been there and I've seen what they're doing with their French beans for export. They're also organized into groups, into cooperatives. They all know, so we are growing and this is the quality, the quantities that we need. So when we pick, this is where it goes, this is where it's collected. Cold chain starts from there, the packaging and everything for export. For local market, do we see that? We don't see that. Do we see the aggregate, the extension services being offered? We don't see that. So you sit back and ask yourself, so the government has many things that it's doing. It talks a lot about what it's doing in the agricultural sector. But is it really translating to supporting the local farmer? At the base of it all, are we seeing the necessary support being given to the local farmer? Start from anything, whether you're talking about crop or animal, livestock. Are we seeing support? Apart from just hearing, during drought season, there's going to be livestock offtake. Do you see our pastoralist communities being supported? Do you?
You don't.
You ask yourself, so what does our government do?
Daily.
Yes. When the government wakes up in the morning, what does it do?
I'm still on this issue. As you look at it as a government, right? Look at it. The thing upon which your economy thrives that you will then use to fuel and fund government. You're not giving any attention to it. So are you kidding when you talk about it being the bedrock of the economy? Are you kidding me? If you're not going to tend it, if you're not going to make sure that you have policy in place to make sure that those who are practitioners of this thing then are actually protected, then are you joking? You talk about it being the bedrock. Okay, very good. Have we talked about it? In the agenda of the current administration, agriculture is one of the 4. What kind of support are you giving to it to make sure then that it continues to do for you what you expect of it? And I think that's a very big thing there, because you can't just say agriculture and hope that by some miracle, poof, things happen. No, you have to feed it. You have to tend to it. Literally, you have to spend money on it. You have to make sure the people who are going to practice it for you are not you, government. It's the Kenyan citizens. Who, by the way, if we remember, the job of government is to create a conducive environment through which all of these things can be practiced anywhere in the world. That's what it is. So I think the question must be asked, truly, as government, when you wake up in the morning, are you actually doing your job? Are you creating that environment in whatever sector in which you operate? So now we're looking at the thing that is holding you up as an economy.
Yeah.
This thing is holding you up as an economy. How much attention are you giving to it? It cannot be. It cannot. Or if you put up your hands and say, actually, we're not able to produce,
but
we're not able to do this, but can we then reduce tariffs? Can we then work on making sure that licenses are easier? Can we make sure that the processes through which then we must import then are easier? But you don't want to do that either.
So you become an agro-processor then.
So what do you want?
So let's ask you that question. You can call in 0719012600. Do you feel the government is offering adequate support to Kenyan farmers of anything? Of anything. Whether it's livestock farmer, whether it's crop farmer, whether it's a floriculture, horticulture. Do you feel that the government, and you can also give us practical experiences, for example, where you come from, what you've seen being done either by the local county government or by the national government or both, working together. What's the budget for agriculture this financial year?
60 billion.
60 billion shillings in this financial year at the national level are going to agriculture. And then, of course, from the 230-something billion shillings that goes to counties, a majority of it also goes into agriculture. So there's a lot of money that is just floating around in agriculture here and there. Do you feel this impact of the amount of money that we spend on agriculture, the amount of talking that we do on agriculture? 0719-012-600. Zachary.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm happy, and I like the discussion today. It's very, very much good. And let me say this, yeah?
Yes, sir.
I do not want anyone to say that I'm not unpatriotic. Because I am engaged in business, and I know that when one brags himself or herself in a certain way, so that he meets the demands of his or her clients who require a certain quality, I think we should not blame that person. And for one thing, I'm one of the people who are against this sijui faro online at sijui. These people are KFC, yeah. After they source the potatoes from sijui where. You know, yesterday when the discussion was going on, I popped out and asked somebody, "Oh, what is the price of shaggy?" Shaggy is a variety of a potato that is mainly grown here in Rift Valley and also in whatever. There is also another one that is called sijui braki or something like that, yeah. And the guy explained to me, shaggy is going for 2,000 shillings per 50 kilo bag, yeah. And then the one, the braki, is costing is going for 1,700 at the gate, yeah, at the farm's gate. So I asked him why. He told me simply it is because of the quality. Shaggy is well known for making good quality chips, yeah. And therefore that explains the difference. So if I start a kiosk and then I say I'm only going to buy shaggy, which goes for 2,000, are you able to meet this? Are you able to supply? I mean, have I committed any crime? What I would require the government to do is this, yeah. If going by the noise that was made in the that is online, yeah. Why can't our farmers now organize and come together form a very very good body that will have a franchise to rival KFC. Because one thing, as a discussion of this, the bottom line is that people love chips. They eat chips, yeah? Instead of blaming a trader who is doing his business, and I set the standard that I would only buy this product if it meets these standards. Why can't we also, so you know that people like chips here, okay. We as farmers, because we grow potatoes here, let us join our hands to try to rival this guy and make chips with our locally produced potatoes, yeah? So I therefore strongly condemn whoever, me, I'm a businessman, Mr. Eric and our sister do there, yeah? And there are some things that I make, and I use wood. And specifically, I use cypress, yeah? Or pine. Any other type of wood, even if you give me, I would only go and use it for firewood, actually. Because I know my customers, I know what they want, what they require. And let me remind these guys that KFC is a global brand, yeah? If I go to New York and I order for chips from a certain joint from their franchise, I expect it to taste the same and have the same qualities as that one which is being served in Nairobi or even in South Africa. Yeah.
Bottom line, Zachary.
Yeah.
Is the Kenyan farmer getting the necessary support? And support is not just financial, even information. Information and the varieties of seeds. So you talked about, for example, the seed varieties that are grown in the country and the advancements in the market. Is the farmer getting adequate information or not the market requires? Is the farmer getting adequate support in terms of the inputs? Is the farmer getting adequate support in terms of the policies in place?
He isn't. I would say that one I would blame the government, yeah? And Mr. Eric, let me refer you to a certain clip that I watched yesterday. Following also this discussion, yeah? There is a clip on YouTube about a farm in Nakuru. They are farming, these guys are from, I don't know, Norway or wherever, yeah? They have got 500 acres, just here in Nakuru. On top of the mountain, this mountain there, like they say that the devil sometimes visits, yeah?
Which one is that?
I don't know the creator, but I'm going creator. What they call it that way, yeah? They say that is his Camp David, yeah?
So the devil comes to Menengai every so often.
Yeah, he comes there when he wants to have good time, yeah? If you follow that clip, yeah? Potato farming is a very serious business. It's a costly business, both in terms of money, machinery, research, you know, and not many small-scale farmers, including myself, who can be able to go to that standard, yeah? So, we are only left with this growing whatever we can be able to get and, just place the tubers in the whatever, in the soil, hoping that we are going to, get some bit of potatoes to make our mukimo when we have got rashi or whatever, yeah? But going to those standards of you are able to supply KFC. Like if KFC calls me and tells me, "Oh, Zachary, we want you to supply us with," I will tell them no. Thank you. Give it to somebody because I know I will fail them. I cannot. And Mr. Eric, kindly go and watch that clip.
Look for it.
You hear that guy who is talking there. He says that they bought. In fact, it's a 4.5 billion venture, yeah. And they had to call in investors, to have faith in them after 2 years of experimenting, researching, and actually putting the faith in investors that this is a viable business, and it truly is, yeah. And also, let me tell people there. Potatoes would come up good when they are grown under irrigation. Okay? Because they are water content. I don't know whether people know that. What actually matters most is the water content of the potato, yeah? Among other parameters. And I do not think that me, all of us, me included, would actually reach that level, yeah?
Yeah.
So finally, let me say that let KFC be, yeah?
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Zachary. 0719-012-600. We are talking about the agriculture sector in the country. So local farmers, cost of inputs, cost of production is very high in very many things. We even talked about it. Rice, cost of input. Potatoes, cost of input. Onions, cost of input. Beans, maize, even miraa. In some case, do you feel that the local farmer is getting the requisite support? 29 minutes after 9. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will. When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokoh is Jeshi la Wokoh?
I can't say it very well. No, Jeshi la Wokoh.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi, 19 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 15. It's mostly sunny at 19 in Nakuru City, highs of 27 and lows of 14. Sunny conditions in Nyeri at 18, highs of 25 and lows of 12. And in Eldoret, it's sunny at 18, highs of 25 and lows of 12. Mostly cloudy at 29 in Mombasa, highs of 32. We'll see highs of 31 in Malindi, where it's partly sunny at 29. Sunny conditions at 24 in Kisumu, highs of 29 and lows of 18. While in Kakamega, it's sunny at 25. It'll go to highs of 29 today and lows of 16. Out in Kampala, it's sunny at 22. We'll see highs of 28. Dar es Salaam, ringing highs of 32 and lows of 27. Mostly sunny conditions and rising slightly in Joburg at 19, highs of 28 and lows of 16. It's still foggy in Lagos, even as the sun is up at 24. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 23. 1 degree and clear in Paris, highs of 7 and lows of 0. Kinshasa is cloudy at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 23. It's clear in London at 3, highs of 7 and lows of 3. And New York, 1 degree, clear, highs of 8, lows of 1.
Spice FM, Nyeri. Spice up your life.
Okay, still a little bit right around Sabaki, then going towards the SGR. That continues on Mombasa Road. The Southern Bypass looks good. Use that. Going east as well, not too bad of an issue. The CBD is where we see most of the action even now. Raila Odinga Way, just after the turnoff of Langata Road, there's something happening there, but it should be okay. Jogo Road started early, it's still an issue now. Landis Road onto Kamkunji and then onto Haile Selassie. That is pretty tight till now. Thika Superhighway, go there, come back, go again in under 30 minutes. Today, you're fine. Not an issue. Let's talk through the day. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
27
done
minutes
right.
to 10. So, do you feel that the government is offering adequate support to the local farmer? That's the question we were asking as we discuss this issue of supply chain, of imported foods being more expensive, or no, imported foods being cheaper than locally produced food. 0719-012-600. Alan.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
New Year,
old
Alan.
chap.
Happy New Year. It's good to hear you guys.
Hey, it's
How
good
you
to hear
doing,
you.
man?
Hanging in there. That's the name of the game.
By a
lately.
thread.
Yes.
No, you keep hanging, man.
Don't let
cheers,
go.
man.
Yeah, don't let go.
My point.
Yes.
This thing started when we swallowed this thing called the Washington Consensus uncritically. You see, if you look at the way we have industrialized, in the early days, we used to have something called import substitution industrialization strategy. We used to have this. We used to protect infant industries. Then when IMF World Bank came into town, we threw that policy. You know, in those days, if you're a paper manufacturer, we used to have something called a no objection certificate. So if you wanted to import paper, you had to go to Pan Paper to give you a no objection certificate.
Wow.
Because policy recognized something called backward linkages. That if you are manufacturing something here, you must be supporting something the other side.
Yep.
Of course, that's the old regime and or price controls. We can't go back there. But the biggest policy failure we have is in what is called industrial policy. That you just close your eyes and saying, I want to develop potatoes. And for those reasons, I'm introducing these rules. This is the attitude the Tanzanian president, the late Magufuli, had when he was dealing with gold mining. You have seen what EABL, East African Breweries, has done with barley. Yeah? Barley farming. What they are trying to do now with sorghum, because they want to do sorghum beers.
What have they
they're
done?
trying to do with sorghum.
What have they done?
Sorry?
What have they done?
They have started a massive project of developing sorghum growing in Western Kenya. Because they want to make the Kisumu breweries is going to use sorghum basically to make those cheap second tier beers.
So they're working backwards on their supply chain.
They are working backwards to help the supply chain. The same thing they have done with barley in Narok. I'm sure now there's a chap in Kisumu called Kibos Sugar who has invested billion shillings in doing a refined sugar plant. He finished it 4 years ago. The beverages sector in this country won't touch him because they're saying quality. That his quality is not. Coca-Cola has been lobbying all over the place. They're saying quality. The quality of Mr. Bire is not right. Yet when you look at the situation, the only countries that have developed in the last 100 years, industrialized, are people who say, we Indians are not taking any more Japanese cars, we are developing our local car industry.
Right.
People start saying, oh, the quality is poor, what?
It's okay, start it like that.
Yes. So the biggest problem we have in this place is that we do not believe in backward. Policy doesn't recognize that backward linkages is possible. And you know one thing? The biggest non-tariff barrier that MNCs use is this thing called taste and brand. That what is a bloody chips as some. That's what they use. They say, the market here doesn't like that kind of chip.
Are you saying, Alan, that it really doesn't make sense? I mean, you are running a global chain. Or let's not even talk about that. Let's just talk about, so the thing that we're talking about, protecting the local farmer. Is it protect the local farmer at any cost, or is it protect the local farmer by supporting the local farmer? Because you can have one thing that, yes, you are protecting the local farmer by making sure that you make it very expensive to import. But if the local farmer is still going to be producing at exorbitant costs, you're hurting the local consumer.
I agree with you. I agree with you that you have to do both. You must support him to a level that he can produce goods that can compete. But at some point, at the stage of your shifting policy, you must allow him to produce that expensive stuff, and at the end of the day, he gains the capacities, and then he'll be able to compete internationally. It's the same debate we have with the climate change. But guys that want to compare our standards with international standards, you must give us our rights to be unreasonable.
Allow us to reserve that right.
Yeah, allow us. I mean, look what Magufuli did with the gold manufacturers. He just told them, you are not going to import. You're not going to export concentrate.
Yeah.
You must do something with it here. That's really what we want to do. Coca-Cola. Look at Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is the biggest marketing company in the world. Yeah. But the saving grace for them is that their biggest input is water.
Yes.
They don't import water. So we allow them to import concentrate.
Yeah.
Fair enough, but we must support local farmers. We must support. I mean, if I was the one making decisions, I would say, because these things called Ndudis, motorcycles, have become such a big deal in our life. I will stop imports of Ndudis to promote the local assembler, or regulate imports to promote the local assembler. That's what these guys call the Tigers did. It's industrial policy stupid. Stupid.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. And there's a case for you.
Thank you very much, Alan.
That's for sure.
Have a good year.
Cheers,
you too.
man.
0719-012-600. Let's hear from you. What's Grid saying?
Well, Grid says, food crop farming in Kenya fares badly. Farm inputs are not subsidized. Extension services no longer exist. Storage of harvested produce is ineffective. Instead, taxes are high. Middlemen take advantage of farmers. Agricultural land continues to shrink. Look, there are many factors here. But I kind of hear what Alan is saying. You know what? Sometimes you're thinking, all right, somebody's arm is mangled, right?
Yep.
And in order to save this person's life, you got to either decide, are you going to let them bleed out or cut off the arm? I hear what he's saying. Jump into this thing, into the deep end, and let's try and swim. Protect the farmer at any cost.
At any cost.
Alan, there's arguments.
Alan must be the one who wrote Uhuru's doctrine number 3.
There's a case for his argument.
Doctrine number 3. Shift from popular decisions to bold decisions.
Right.
And he gives that example of the Asian tigers and China. 35 years, China, Asian tigers, 25 years. They took bold decisions in their industrialization process, imposing limits to politics as a bold decision, taking bold decisions.
I'll give you an example. You know, Nigeria is a federal state. The governor of Anambra State said, you know what? Because everybody is then responsible for own source revenue apart from what you get from the federal government. So you have state government, you have federal government. Governor of Anambra State said, you know what? All these Igbo boys everywhere jumping about, going to get spare parts in China and wherever. Start producing it here. Right now, Anambra State has a vehicle. All Anambra State offices must use that vehicle. I don't want to see jumping. It will break down. It will start again tomorrow. It's okay. We've now figured out how to fix it.
Right.
In the east now, southeast, Anambra, one of the highest revenue earners in the southeast. Many other problems, teething problems here and there, nonsense going on. But you can see, I can see then Alan what he says.
He hears this. You know, Laikipia has a vehicle. The next vehicle for the governor of Laikipia County, Nerito Muridi, will be that one.
Let's just be going.
Locally
we get
produced.
there. Let's be going.
You will need me to come to Nairobi. Give me
a
5
day.
hours.
I need a day.
Jimmy in Malindi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I thank God.
Good to hear you.
Yes. Otherwise, going to the point, for me, I see also the main problem here is that the people that are in this policy making and the people that are in the government, most of these people, they are tradesmen. Yes, these people are businessmen.
Yeah.
And when they are when they are coming into power, there are certain companies who are exporters and importers of goods and also things from outside into the country. These are among the people who support the leadership. And in campaigning, you hear that a certain businessman is supporting a certain person for presidency. You can even see during the Madaraka Day or public holidays, you see them posting in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Supporting of this and this. You see this company is wishing happy Madaraka Day to all the people. You know, these people that are importers, they have partnership with most of the people. I don't specify who,
in
but
government.
they know themselves, and we know some of them. They have connection. So there is no way these people are going to support the local produced things because they're going to be going out of market. They will be putting their sponsors out of market.
So basically, it's a short-sightedness of some people at the decision-making level. Because they're just thinking, for me, I'm going to make money now if we import eggs or if we import whatever we're importing, instead of looking at supporting local and participating in the local production.
Yes, and this importer is the same person who supported me for leadership.
Right.
This importer is my business partner, has given me some percentage of their imports. And that's why we ask ourselves, why is it that we are importing junk through Kenya Revenue Authority and the Kenya Bureau of Standard? Yes, they allow junk to come into the country. Why? It must be this junk is connected somewhere with the leadership. So, what we have good for us to be used here, that is good for us, then this again is taken from Kenya and exported outside. So, example, the sugar. Why would Mumia's sugar fall? Why? It is because something else is coming from outside into the country. So they have to kill competition. They are business-oriented people. So, if we the Kenyans are the ones with the whole with the whole jurisdiction, we are the ones who are sisi wa Kenya ndio wenye.
We lost Jimmy, but we hear you. Basically, what he's saying is, some of these people who should be making the decision to support the local
have their hand in the cookie jar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work for them.
No, it's not beneficial to them.
Somebody argued, and that argument keeps coming back, that at that moment when state officers and public officers were allowed to participate in business,
that's when things fell apart.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the timelines and just go chronologically, can you see that at that time when that was allowed is when you started to see a lot of these cooperatives falling apart? It's when you started to see that,
the Ndegwa Commission, yes.
Right, that business, that cooperatives that you saw that would otherwise be supported to run agriculturally, other kind of business, then started to lose some of their power, some of their cooperation.
Somebody who is at that level where they are thinking policy, they are thinking long term, if they are also thinking commercially for themselves, they're going to skew very many things and very many decisions to favor them.
Indeed.
Not necessarily for the common good of the people. And that's where some of these problems come in. So you see that, we are talking about we need infrastructure development for the next X number of years, but what kind of infrastructure? This is where we talk about budgeted corruption. somebody is basically the one who's making the budget for the country, but they're already thinking, so
Where's mine?
where is my money going to come in? So let's put in more money here in agriculture because I have a stake in this. Let's put a bit of money here in transport and infrastructure because I have a stake in this. So let's actually say the direction that we're taking is a construction of our expansion of the road network. I'm the one who's going to supply the bitumen. So this budget, half of it is coming to me. Doesn't necessarily look at what's the common good.
No.
What's a greater benefit?
What is a selfish interest often trump collective interest? If we just look at human nature and the way it plays out, that's the case. But then I would say, until and unless you have a place where the collective interest then trumps the selfish interest, a lot of these things that we are talking about will not come to be. And then when the understanding then comes that if everybody benefits, you also benefit. The more people that benefit, the more that you also benefit as an individual in this whole network and mishmash of things. But I think we've got it backwards to see that, let me take as much as I can and leave everybody else down there. You're actually doing yourself a disservice. Once we click on that thing, that if there's collective development, that you also as an individual and your little social units can also benefit. Once we get that, I think that will change a lot of things. Some other countries have mastered it. Whether you want to call it modern day socialism, where you've been able to come together and then we all share part of this pie, that everybody will benefit and we'll be able to move further together. Once we're able to tap into the power of that concept, I think then you'll see a lot of things changing. But until then, because the sad reality is just that, as he was saying, our last caller was saying that, there's some people in this whole thing who would then be responsible for the change of policy who have their own selfish interest there. So you think it's not possible, or you think they've not thought about it. They've thought about it, but they've seen where they would be able to eat. So you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to have that conversation right now. Until we get to that place whereby you realize that we all go further together, we'll be talking about these things for years to come.
But then also there's the other side of the coin, which is the farmer, the smallholder farmer or the large-scale farmer. Let's talk about the smallholder farmer. So the smallholder farmer knows what they are capable of producing. They know what they need. They need better seed. They need better information. They need water. They need better access to the market. They know the power that they wield because they come together. This smallholder farmer is a member of a circle, is a member of a cooperative, is a member of something. They know the power of numbers. Why is it that we're not able, at what point did that cooperative movement and spirit get muzzled? Because it has gotten muzzled at some point. We still have cooperatives, but those cooperatives are not as strong as they ought to be. We have seen it took leadership of certain individuals, just a few individuals, to come back and say, look, we have a giant cooperative movement in the tea sector, but the management of tea is not going well. We need to fight this and we need to push back. It just took a few people to lead all the smallholder farmers to agree and say,
this one thing.
No, KTD needs to be run better. Why don't we see the same? Pyrethrum collapsed. We have potato conversations taking place every day. We farmers are able to organize themselves and say, this is our collective position and this is what we demand. You can push for movement from government. But we don't actually see, yes, we see, the chairman of the Potato Farmers Association. Is this chairman of the Potato Farmers Association really representing the farmers?
And their interests. As he heard from them in terms of what we
Can we say that we actually, if we sit back today and we look at the potato farmers in this country and you hear that voice of the people who call themselves the leadership of the Potato Farmers Association, they are representing the ordinary potato farmer. Or did the ordinary potato farmer just give up? They do their
just
thing.
Seep somewhere into the woodwork.
They wait for, wale watu wako huko juu wakifanya mambo watatuambia. That personal responsibility and duty to take up your position and say, we are coming together and this is what we are pushing for. Because I'm just thinking back and thinking, we've had conversations about potato, for example, the last 2 years or so.
Yep.
new regulations coming in, talking about the role of the farmer and the value for the farmer, the role of the middleman, the trader, and the value for the middleman, the trader. If you went to the ordinary farmer today in any of these potato growing areas, and you ask them, so tell me about the potato regulations, do you think they'll tell you?
Would you be sure that they all know?
That's the thing.
Yeah. Would they be able to tell you, or would they tell you? Because they maybe do not know.
Are they sitting back waiting for someone to come and tell them? Or are they actively seeking this information? Or actively thinking, this is what we
are
do.
part of,
I grew up in this farm where my folks were growing potatoes and others, and I've seen disease come and wipe out a crop. I've seen soil change. I've seen the quality of our seed deteriorate, and we need to change. And I'm gonna do this. Me and my neighbors and the other neighbors, we're gonna come together, and this is the conversation we're pushing, all of us together, not just sitting back and waiting for. MCA ametuambia anaenda. This person came and they said they're representing us in Nairobi. They'll come.
No. Nope. There's a lot.
We need more. We need more participation.
Which is why I was saying, in as much as we're actually saying, indeed, that policymakers have a huge responsibility to play here. Government has huge responsibility on their shoulders to take care of this thing that runs the economy, right?
Yep.
I still feel that there needs to be some participation moving forward on the part of those who are the practitioners of this particular engine. To say, you know what, maybe we're not represented well enough. Maybe there are ideas that we have that have not come out to the limelight. Maybe there are things that we believe we actually can do with the resources that we have. We're asking for reductions here. We're asking for subsidies here. We're asking for this thing that we can see. We can actually help you and contribute to the running of this economy. We can do it.
Yes.
But then there are certain things that we need you to drop here, consider here, tweak here and there to have it be done. But I dare say that some of the policymakers, in as much as they're experts, right, that they don't know the situation on the ground. And because of the fact that they do not know that, then they're less likely inclined to start to do something about it, because they may not realize how bad it is. They may not realize just how much potential there is. But if you're coming to them and you're constantly letting them know in their face on a regular basis, these are the things we need. You guys just give us this thing and watch what we can do.
We may sit back and, hope on a prayer that, we'll have good leadership that addresses our needs, that we'll have a good governor that understands and thinks about our needs and our plight. But I think we also ought to do something. Individually as a farmer and your neighbor and the other farmer, what you're growing. So if you're growing tomatoes, if you are in the poultry business and you're thinking, so our problem here is high cost of inputs, high cost of feeds. So what do we need to do to reduce the cost of feeds? What are the barriers? What are these things that are contributing to the high cost of feeds? This is the conversation that we want to have. And agitate at that level. Agitate at the small level, it then goes up. But if the smallholder chicken farmer does not talk about, their plight, they're just thinking, all right, this thing has become expensive. I'll stop doing chicken. I'll start doing something else. Give up and move on. Whatever else you're moving into also has its own challenges.
Challenges that you've not actually quite
and then you'll keep moving from this. I was doing chicken. I stopped doing chicken. I heard farmers in Githunguri are doing very well with milk. Let me try dairy here. And you're not in Githunguri. So, how?
Very, very difficult.
How?
Be very difficult to do that. Just like you say, there are career farmers in a particular sector in other countries, and we've seen that they've been able to do very well, but it's not on their own. And look, I think we can't harp up enough about the support that is necessary, the support that is needed to get some of these things done, but I think it's a two-way street here. And both sides have to be involved in this conversation.
Indeed.
This is something that we had the ambassador to Kenya from Ireland here. And do you remember what she told us about how that drought that they went through is what spurred them on to realize, hold on a minute, we have this thing that's so wonderful. The Irish potato, where do you think the world knew about it from? Took themselves out of drought, put themselves in a surplus creating situation, and said, this is what we want to be able to maintain. You're protecting your farmers because it's not government who runs farms. right?
Yep.
It's the people of the country who run these farms.
Yep.
So what does government do? Make it conducive for these practitioners to be able to get it done. The country as a whole benefits. The country as a whole benefits.
Yeah.
Or do you mean to tell me that Ireland got itself out of drought and stands as one of the biggest suppliers of food on the globe, and then its own farmers are not benefiting? You mean to tell me that? Of course not. Everybody benefits. Everybody benefits. There's work to be done.
There's work to be done, and we have a duty and responsibility as citizens. As we keep talking about the government and what the government ought to do, let's also talk about what can we do and what ought we do. So, thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again tomorrow morning. Let me remind you today's proverb. It's a Somali proverb. Do not set out on a journey using someone else's donkey. What does it mean?
Be prepared for the journey ahead of you, my friend. Are you ready to go? Have all your things in place. Or then, if you don't, then be ready to go a longer journey, either by walking, the sweat of your brow and the weight of your back. But be prepared. You can't bank on somebody else's
don't bank
resources.
on somebody else
to push yourself forward.
Yep. It's not a Serikali's idea kind of thing. It is your kind of thing. It's your journey. Asante sana for tuning in. Join us again tomorrow morning. Now until 11, we have an interrupted music. And then from 11, it's Sugar and Spice, Yolanda and DJ Absolute. And then from 3 o'clock to 7, it's Edward Quach on Spice Drive. The adults in the room will be here. And who are the adults?
Barbara, Arnold, and Carigo.
Barbara, Arnold, and Carigo from 7 to 10 p.m. See you again tomorrow morning. Have a lovely Wednesday. It's now 10 a.m.